230 passengers boarded, 10 crew, 2 pilots, Vijay Rupani on board. That's one breaking news. We are telling you this is the update. The second important aspect is that the Boeing share prices has plunged. This has come from the international market by 6.5% pre-market trading after the Dreamliner has crashed in India. That's the second part. The third important aspect is that for our viewers, the entire airport has been shut down. The Prime Minister has been updated. Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has been updated. He's being regularly fed information on this. The NDRF has been rushed. The paramilitary has been rushed. The police department personnel has been rushed. That's on the left hand side. The fire department is there. These are the visuals we are showing you. And then there's one visual we are about to show you, which is on the right hand side, the bottom, which you actually see the tail of the aircraft on top of a building. This is for the investigators to find out as to what has happened. But this tells us something horrible happened immediately after the takeoff. The plane was flying at 174 knots. It was at the height of 625 feet. 625 feet is nothing. 625 feet is nothing. It's just nothing. And it has shocked the entire nation. 7878 Dreamliner has crashed in India, in Ahmedabad. There were 230 passengers on board. 230 passengers on board. 230 passengers on board. There were 10 crew members. There were 2 foreigners. The flight was at 174 knots. Home Minister Amit Shah has left for Gujarat. PM has asked Civil Aviation Minister to reach the crash site. Home Minister Amit Shah will very soon be there. A command center has been activated there. A release from the Tata Group has come. It's a horrible, tragic incident that has taken place. And these are the visuals. These are the visuals of the plane going down. And let me also take you through the other breaking news that is coming in. The other breaking news is that the relief and rescue operation is taking place in full swing. It was flight A171 from Ahmedabad to London, Gatwick Airport, which was involved in the crash. Now, Sardar Patel International Airport in Ahmedabad is currently not operational. All flight operations are temporarily suspended under further notice. Passengers are advised, which is a statement that has come, to check with their respective airlines for the latest updates before proceeding to the airport. We request your cooperation and patience as authorities manage this evolving situation. Now, I am also joined by former Wing Commander Alok Sahai, aviation expert. Sir, your opening comments. The visuals are there. The first one of the plane going down. The second one immediately after the impact. And the third one is of the entire NDRF and other disaster management team reaching the spot, sir.
Yes, by the video it seems very clear that the aircraft engine is not able to give its thrust. The aircraft is not able to gain height, rather it is going down. Secondly, the engines are looking intact. There is no fire, apparently there is no fire seen before the aircraft goes down. That means that there is no big flock of birds. If flock of birds goes into the engine, and because of that, if engine power goes off, then the fire is seen. A flash of fire is seen if the birds are ingested in the engine. But that is not visible by the video as such. So it is very apparent that for some unknown reasons as of now, the aircraft is not able to get thrust and not able to gain height. And, second thing, what you said, that the airport has been, shut down, and this gives me some indication that probably the investigating authority would like to see the runway conditions, if anything happened because of runway conditions. So this happens because of this. Third thing is that at the time of takeoff, if aircraft crashes, the crash is normally very big because it is having the maximum load of the fuel. The fuel is maximum at this time during takeoff. And that is why you see such a big fireball in one go. And it's very tragic. It's very tragic. And I don't know how many people might have survived out of this. But it is very apparent that the aircraft engines have failed. They are not getting fast. And it seems that it is not because of the birds or anything else. Could be other reasons which we would come to know later. And as per some unconfirmed reports, I think there is an unconfirmed report that pilot has communicated something about the engine to the ATC controller, but that is yet to come out officially. Yes.
Mr. Sahad, my second question to you is, since you in detail you have described, what could have gone wrong, sir? Because the flights are most vulnerable when they take off, sir, and the flights are very vulnerable when they land.
Yes. See, landing and takeoff time is the critical time of any aircraft operation. And most of the incident and accident happen during this phase as per the statistics. So the problem is that, in this particular case, what seems that the aircraft has not lost its symmetry. If you notice, it has not lost its symmetry. It is stable. The wings level is attitude, what we call it in the aviation parlance, a wings level. So it has not turned any side or it has not pitched down or something. It is just simply losing height. That shows that the aircraft engine is not able to generate adequate thrust. So the problem is with the engine, as far as I can guess at this moment, just by seeing this visuals. And rest we would come to know. And what happens during takeoff, there is a critical stage. After that when the aircraft crosses that critical stage in the takeoff run, then even if some problem is observed in the engine or anything, the pilot will continue with the takeoff. He will not abandon takeoff, because abandoning after that critical stage will lead to much serious accidents. So could be a reason that the pilot might have got some indications that something is wrong, but he might have crossed that critical stage of takeoff and he has taken off, but thereafter he is not turning any side. He's just going straight and continue. He's losing height rapidly and going down towards the ground. That is a very dangerous scenario, because after takeoff, even if one engine is on, the pilot is able to gain some height. He declares emergency and then he makes 180 turn after stabilizing the aircraft for an emergency immediate landing back to the same runway. The runway, which has not happened in this case. The aircraft is not able to stabilize itself. So it has no option for returning back to the runway. So a thorough inquiry.
Across to the police reaction, sir.
50% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे। मैं सभी मीडिया के मित्रों से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं, सभी हमसे सहयोग करें, जितनी पुलिस, उसके अलावा जितनी भी एजेंसी, आर्मी, बीएसएफ, सीआईएसएफ, कॉरपोरेशन, कलेक्टर ऑफिस के सभी स्टाफ, सभी यहाँ काम में लगे हुए हैं। प्लीज हमसे सहयोग करिए और थोड़ी सी हमारे लिए जगह बना के रखिए, ताकि हम एम्बुलेंस को ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बना के हॉस्पिटल तक पहुंचा सके। थैंक यू।
I am also joined by Captain Sanjay Karve, aviation expert and former, who was part of the government of Maharashtra, who's worked in government of Maharashtra. Captain Karve, your comments on the way plane has gone down. My earlier expert was saying that lot of things need to be looked into, which is the tarmac, the fact that it was not able to turn around. This is the visual on the right hand side of the plane going down, sir. On the left hand side is of the people who are trying to make through the debris, sir. Your opening comments on this.
So it's a very sad and tragic thing to happen, especially just about the time when Air India is settling down, and losing 242 lives under any circumstances is just not acceptable. Now, going to this particular incident, the weather at Ahmedabad was a typical summer, 40 degrees. What I gather is 40 degrees temperature. the Ahmedabad runway is quite capable for a 787 to carry out a hot takeoff. He's going from Ahmedabad to UK. He would have obviously carried full fuel. Now, any fixed wing aircraft has got two speeds which are known as V1 and V2. Now, V1 is the speed when he's doing a takeoff roll or a takeoff run, where he has to decide whether he should continue or he should abort. Obviously, if he's continued for takeoff, that means the aircraft did not see any problems or he had no emergency warnings till the time he had reached V1 speed. At V2, when the aircraft is unsticking or leaving the runway, beyond that, it is prudent and recommended that you continue with the takeoff. So it is very obvious that whatever emergency indications he has had is after the V2 speed. If you look carefully, you can see that the landing gear of the aircraft is still down. And if you look at the wings, it appears that the flaps are still in the takeoff position. And he is given a call as per ETC. I don't think that aircraft has gone beyond 600 to 700 feet. The pilot, to my mind, has displayed exceptional flying skills in maintaining the wings level despite losing power. The only probable cause at this point of time appears to be loss of thrust on both engines. Because an aircraft like 787, even if it loses one engine, it is quite capable of remaining in air and coming back for an emergency landing. Like my previous colleague mentioned, he will have to stay in air, burn fuel, become light, and then come and land. But all these aircrafts, the 787, the 777 or the Airbus 350, they are quite capable of flying on a single engine. So the only possible cause at this point of time is loss of sudden thrust on both the engines.
Basically, sir, you are saying that there was a loss of thrust in both the engines. Why does it happen? Is it just a snag?
Now, most of the engines today, the modern engines, are electrically controlled.
And the reason why, sir, sir, I asked this question was that if you look at a context which Karthik Malhotra, my colleague, had given, there were engines that came under the scanner, and there were engines which underperformed and led to a lot of accidents, sir.
Correct, but most of the modern aircraft have computer-controlled engines. It is controlled by computer, so you can't just lay down one fixed reason as to why an engine misbehaves. You will have to do a trial and error basis, like fuel. It obviously cannot be lack of fuel. The aircraft is going to London, to Gatwick. So he would have had sufficient fuel to go to Gatwick and also a diversion fuel to divert from Gatwick if the weather packs up. The second cause could be non-reaching of fuel to the engines. That means there is a blockage somewhere in the pipeline where the fuel has got stopped. The third could be loss of electrical signals to the computers which control the engines, which has decided that the engine cannot develop full power. Now, if you recollect, this aircraft had flown from Delhi today morning, Delhi to Ahmedabad, and it was on ground for a few hours. Obviously, the aircraft is going for a long flight. The Air India engineers would have gone through the entire system very carefully. So I would rule out anything or any maintenance error part of thing. Something catastrophic
For a minute,
has
I'm joined
happened.
by sir, I'm joined by Praful Patel, former Aviation Minister. Sir, your opening thoughts, sir. Mr. Patel, Karthike from Newsline. Praful Patel is with us, former Aviation Minister, sir. Your opening comments.
I'm very shocked and saddened by the crash today, and I have no words to express my feeling. That really, it's a very big setback, and how seven the most technologically.
There's a bit of a problem. We'll try to get back to Praful Patel again. We'll try to get back to Mr. Sahai. You wanted to come in, please, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to say that it is very apparent that both the engines have failed. Very apparent, both the engines have failed, because if single engine fails, then the aircraft is the pilot is able to control the aircraft and divert or come back for landing. So failure of both the engines indicates a couple of things. One is that there could be a flock of bird which got ingested in both the engines together, number one, which does not seem like by this video, because in such a scenario, normally there is a flash of fire on the engine. And it is very visible, very much visible from the ground also, if the aircraft is so close by, which is we are not seeing in this video, number one. So what the second alternative is what the other panelist was saying, that the blockage of fuel, could be by some technical error or could be because of some electrical failure, which signals the control of flow of fuel to the engine. It could be this second reason seems to be the most probable reason. Yes.
Mr. Sahai was Mr. Kave, Mr. Sahai said it looks clearly a case where both the engines stalled.
Yes, I say that both the engines have given up at the takeoff leg, and it cannot be because of engine error problem, because if it is not maintenance related issue, because maintenance related issues at the most there could have been problem with one engine, not both the engines together, the highly improbable thing. So this happens not because of the engine per se problem, but the technical parameters which feed fuel to the engine. That the problem lies there, the supply to both the engines, or the electrical, some electrical circuit failure which stopped the supply to the aircraft engine, something of that sort. Yes.
Something of that sort, sir. But before I'll take you through the issue of engines which have converted the aviation industry. But first, the reactions.
टेकऑफ के बाद यहाँ पे क्रैश हो गई है, जिसमें प्रीलिमिनरी हमें पता चला है कि 223 जितने पैसेंजर थे यहाँ पे जिस बिल्डिंग के ऊपर गिरी है वो डॉक्टर्स का हॉस्टल है। इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियाँ, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे।
Okay, now Karthik is with me. Karthik, can you just take us through the larger rubric of the accidents that have plagued the aviation industry, one, and can you just take us through the Dreamliner engines, Karthik?
Right, so Karthikeya, see, we have seen issues in the past with the Dreamliner as well, with the 787, and in fact the most recent one that we saw was last year, the Boeing aircraft. I think it was on board to Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, where a door plug blew off mid-air, and that pretty much brought Boeing down to its knees. So Boeing as an organization has been facing a lot of issues. It actually began with the 737 MAX engines. There was a reported MCAS issue at that time. If you remember, there were 2 or 3 flights which had crashed in the year 2018-19, if I'm not mistaken, where we had seen passenger planes go down one after another, and thereafter the entire 737 MAX fleet was suspended and pretty much put to ground for further inspection. And then of course there was a new protocol for pilots to be taught on how to override the MCAS. So that was one issue, a recent history issue with Boeing. Thereafter, of course, we saw last year the door plug blew out in the month of Jan in 2024, and that grounded the 787 fleet for a brief period of time. Beyond that, we have seen strikes at Boeing. We have seen issues of employee dissatisfaction. We've seen change of management. So, a lot of issues have at a corporate level and at a serviceability level, at a functional level impacted Boeing. But the point is that this 787 that we are seeing, the last visuals of the 787 as it were, has been in operation for about 10 or 11 years. So a decade is actually a short time in the history of an aircraft. Aircrafts have run for at least 3 decades, 4 decades without a problem on an average. Here we are talking about an aircraft which is just 10 years old, by most standards considered reasonably new. It's not an old aircraft that one would expect a major fault to sort of, come and present itself, as we are seeing in this case. Then there's a protocol for every aircraft that takes to the skies, Kartikeya. Every aircraft has a maintenance schedule, has a logbook. There is a pure handover that happens from one maintenance person to another, one team to another, every time the aircraft lands, every time the aircraft takes off. These records now are digitally maintained. So if there is any issue which any pilot would have ever reported about the aircraft, that problem has to be in the logbook of the aircraft. That problem has to be mentioned in the maintenance sheets of the particular aircraft. So I think the job of the investigators is very clearly cut out. They will have to first find the cockpit voice recorder. They will have to find the black box. They'll have to see what was happening in the cockpit. What were the pilots saying to each other? What were they transmitting back to passengers who were sitting in the aircraft? And what was their communication with the air traffic control at Ahmedabad? So that is one part of the flight data recorder, the flight voice recorder, the cockpit voice recorder. The other one is the data recorder, which is more commonly referred to as a black box. And that black box is actually going to show the investigators what was going on in the engine of the aircraft, in the hydraulics of the aircraft, in the fuel pipes of the aircraft. Like our co-panelists have been mentioning, that there's a lot of electronics, there's a lot of computerization that goes into these planes now. So every little command given by a pilot, how much did the throttle increase or decrease by, what was the pitch when the aircraft was taking off, what buttons got pressed in the cockpit, and how did corresponding parts in various parts of the aircraft respond to those commands inputted. All of that is part of the black box or the flight data recorder. And of course, once that is found and once investigations formally begin, a lot more of why this 787 went down should come to surface. But as one can see, and again we are seeing on the visuals, Kartikeya, the pilots do seem to be in some sort of a control, trying to make sure that the wings are level, that the aircraft's flight path, the glide path of the aircraft is.
Please hold your thought for a minute. I'm also joined by SS Pane, Captain SS Pane, sir. There are a couple of SS Pane, sir. Captain SS Pane, sir, aviation expert. He joins me. Sir, these are the visuals on the left-hand side. And my earlier panelists were saying that the flaps were still deployed. When you look at these visuals, what do you make of it, sir?
Yes, I can see the video. Let me tell you one thing. It will be just premature to talk about the cause of the incident, but this Boeing 787 is the most modern aircraft. It is fitted with all the latest electronics in this aircraft. Only after investigation will come through, after noting the cockpit voice recorder and digital flight data recorder. Was there any maintenance problem, engine failure on takeoff, or the pilot's incapability to control of? Because pilots are trained even if the engine fails. But if both engines fail, then they have no choice but to just go and crash. Now, it is only after the investigation, it will be premature to talk of any cause of accident right now, unless we know the cockpit voice recorder and whichever, and then we'll come to know the exact problem. Because whether it's a maintenance problem or the operation problem, how many hours this aircraft has done, when was the last checks done, what are the maintenance reports about this aircraft, all these things will come into action now after the investigating agency take over the case. But we have also to see whether the pilot had proper rest before the flight or not. Because presently, I find many violations are taken of flight and due time limitation, where DG says also checking the airline, keeping a good check on the violation of flight due time. That also has the fact also to be seen. Now, it will be just premature to comment now. It's a very sad incident, and we have to be very careful in the investigation. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Board must have taken note of all these things, and they will arrive at the situation. They'll catch hold of the. These are the only two things which will bring you to the exact cause of the crash. But it will be too premature for us to give any comments about this crash right now. We have to wait for a few more.
So you are absolutely right, sir. We have to wait. We cannot be presumptuous. For this reason, we have got people who understand. Mr. Saha and Mr. Kave, they continue to be with me. Gentlemen who understand the aviation. So, obviously, it's very understandable, Mr. Kave, that, one cannot be presumptuous when a tragedy of this nature has taken place. One cannot be presumptuous. But then the fact of the matter is that plane has gone down. The fact of the matter is that people have died. The fact of the matter is that people would like to know, why did a modern plane like this go down? There can be 100 things which can happen. We are only here to describe the visuals and events as they are coming in. And when you look at this plane, you can clearly see that the plane was just going down. It was not able to lift off, which means that something must have happened in exactly first 60 to 180 seconds. Mr. Kave.
See, if you look at it, like as one of my previous colleague pointed out, by aviation standard, it's a brand new aircraft, just 11 years old. The aircraft had flown in the morning. It had done a 2 hours leg, that is Delhi, Ahmedabad. So it is not that the aircraft was lying on ground for a couple of days and this was the first flight of the day or the week. No, it had flown in the morning. It would have undergone a turnaround servicing, a TRS, what we call it. It would have undergone additional checks because it was a long flight from Ahmedabad to right up to Gatwick. The only thing what we can see from the visuals is the pilot throughout had the airplane under control. At no stage does it appear that he had lost control of the aircraft. So that is something which needs to be admired and praised. What is obvious is the aircraft is unable to climb. So it is losing thrust. The engines have lost thrust. We really don't know the reason why. Today's modern engine, like I said previously.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you, sir. I'm sorry, I'm joined by my colleague, my reporter Sachin Patel from Ahmedabad in front of a hospital. Sachin, अगर आपको मेरी आवाज़ सुनाई दे रही है तो मुझको बताइए सचिन, आप कहाँ खड़े हैं, किस अस्पताल के सामने हैं और आपको जानकारियाँ क्या मिल रही हैं अस्पताल से?
देखिए, यहाँ पर जो घटना ये जो है वो घटना बड़ी ही चौंकाने वाली घटना है। वो हिस्सा में देखा रहा हूँ जो टेक ऑफ और लैंडिंग का है, वहां से करीबन 400 या 500 मीटर दूर एक हॉस्पिटल का बिल्डिंग है। उस बिल्डिंग के हिस्से से पहले बिल्डिंग जो है उसका जो पिछला हिस्सा है प्लेन का, वहां पर टकराया। उसके बाद जो उसका अगला हिस्सा है वो हिस्सा यहाँ से करीबन 300-400 मीटर की दूरी पर आगे पहुंचता हुआ हमने देखा है। और वहां पर ये जो डेड बॉडीज है, डब्रीज है, वो सारी डब्रीज वहां पर दिखाई दे रही है और कई सारे लोग जो इसमें झुलस कर जिनकी मौत हुई है और कई लोगों को रेस्क्यू किया गया है। जो रेस्क्यू की प्रक्रिया है वो वहां पर की गई है और यहाँ पर सारी एजेंसीज जो है वो अभी फिलहाल प्रायोरिटी इस बात की है कि जो भी लोग यहाँ पर हैं उनको पहले तो जो नॉर्मल ट्रीटमेंट है वो ट्रीटमेंट दी जाए और उस ट्रीटमेंट को लेकर के उनको हॉस्पिटल पहुंचाया जाए और ऊपर दिशा करे यार।
आप जरा एक मिनट रुकिए, हमारे साथ आपकी कोलीग नीरू भी है मेरे साथ। नीरू, बताइए कि व्हाट इज द लेटेस्ट इंफॉर्मेशन वी आर गेटिंग, नीरू, फ्रॉम अहमदाबाद, एंड इज इट करेक्ट that very soon Home Minister will be landing there? We got this news from Delhi.
Yes, Karthikeya, let me tell you, PM Narendra Modi is also expected to arrive anytime soon in Ahmedabad, as the reports are emerging that ex-Chief Minister Vijay Rupani was also on board, and the sources have been telling TV9 that Vijay Rupani was also on board. And this is the main reason Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also expected to arrive in Ahmedabad anytime soon. And let me just describe you the situation. Mayhem situation, chaotic situation, panic and painful situation we can see right outside the civil hospital that is right near the international airport, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport. More than 50 people are feared dead and more than 100 people have been seriously injured. But the numbers are expected to rise as we see more and more people are, going for the treatment at the hospital. At the crash spot right now, cooling operations are underway. And it's a very, very massive incident that has occurred in Ahmedabad. History's a very tragic aviation incident that has happened in Gujarat history, because it was the residential area, Meghani Nagar area, right a few meters away from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, and as we can see in the visuals, the plane crashing, the live video of the plane crashing right near the site of Meghani residential area. It is actually dreadful and painful to see people, coming for their relatives, their family members,
We are
their friends
also,
who were traveling and on board this flight.
we are also being told, since the plane actually crashed at the hostel, the students on ground also died. The casualty on the ground has also taken place.
Exactly, it's very fearful, scary, and painful to hear this. But let me tell you, no official statement from the administration or police or fire brigade we have received yet. We are yet to receive official statements on this. But as it was a residential area, Meghani Nagar area, and so more and more casualty numbers are going to increase definitely. And as of now, 50 people fear dead, Kartikeya.
Okay. Okay, let me go across to Mr. Sai, and before Mr. Sai, let me go across to Sachin. Sachin, जरा जानकारी दीजिए, आप वहाँ फील्ड पे खड़े हैं, मेरे साथ यहाँ दो गेस्ट हैं, उनके पास कुछ देर में जाऊँगा, आलोक साहा और संजय काबे, बट सचिन आप बताइए, ग्राउंड से रिपोर्ट दीजिए. सचिन, लगता है हमारी आवाज सचिन तक नहीं जा पा रही है. Let me straight away go to Mr. Karve. Sir, I think the casualties have taken place on the ground also, sir. We are coming to know that the plane had crashed in the compound of a hostel.
I agree. An aircraft like 787 with tons of fuel in it, if it crashes on ground, and especially in a habitat area where buildings are there are going to be casualties on ground. This is an unavoidable part. This also brings us to a question as to the sort of construction which takes place near the airport. Is there a need to have a relook at it, especially on the takeoff and the landing approaches?
Mr. Sahai, are you still there with me? I think Mr. Okay, Mr. Sahai, Sanjay Karve, Kartik Malhotra, and Neeru continues to be with me. Kartik, you wait. Neeru, any more update on this story? Neeru, any more update on this story? And now let me play out the visuals of people. Let me play out the visuals of people praying. These are the latest visuals we are getting you from. These are the latest visuals I'm getting you from Ahmedabad. There were 53 British passengers on board. DGCA pilot made a mayday call to ATC. DGCA said that the pilot made a mayday call to ATC. Flight A171 crashes near airport. Plane fell from the altitude of 625 feet. Plane fell from the height of 625 feet. 174 knot was the speed at the time of the crash. It's a horrible day. It's a very bad day. The reports are coming in that the Home Minister is going to land very soon. Our correspondent Neeru was telling us that even the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected, but we'll wait for the official call. We'll wait for the official response. Neeru continues to be with me. Neeru, am I audible to you, Neeru?
Yes, Kartikeya.
Please, Neeru, can you give me more update?
Yes, Kartikeya, let me tell you the situation. Let me describe you the situation. I'm at the civil hospital right now, and the situation is extremely chaotic, painful, panic around the hospital. We can see as more and more casualties are being brought to the civil hospital. People are really feared. The relatives of the family members, the relatives of the casualties are reaching the hospital. At the moment, people are really not able to make out which hospital who have been brought to, and that is why the situation is really panic. And the kind of scenario we can see outside the civil hospital, more and more people are being admitted here, and the situation is extremely scary. The number of casualties, the number which has been confirmed right now, as of now, 50 people are feared dead. More than 100 people have been seriously injured. So Kartikeya, senior officers are also reaching at the spot. And if we talk about the crash site, more and more help are being sent to this portion as well as hospitals. Army has also pressed into the action, Kartike, for the rescue operation.
Absolutely. Let me just tell you, the hotline numbers have been issued. Ministry of Civil Aviation Control Room has been activated by the ministry. And the number is 011 246 10843. This is the number 011 246 10843. 96503 91859 is the number. We will continue to give you all the details. Hotline numbers have been issued by the Government of India. Let me tell you, hotline numbers have been issued by the Government of India. This is hotline number 1 that has been issued, and the hotline number is, let me again take my viewers, is hotline number is 24610843, 011 24610843. And the other hotline number is 96503 91859. This is a dedicated hotline number. Then another dedicated hotline number for Air India passengers is 180056914444. 1800569144. Karthik, I am coming to you. Karthik, hotline numbers have been issued. The Home Minister is going to be there very soon. There can be a number of reasons why a plane can go down. But these planes are built to last. These planes are built with the latest engines. And this plane was not carrying the engine which was under the eye of storm 1 year ago. Isn't that correct, Karthik?
Absolutely right. In fact, what happened last year in the month of January was a door plug issue. It was not with the engine. It was a faulty mechanical installation, presumably, or a door plug mid-air. But it's the same make of the aircraft, but the problem seemed to be completely different this time around. And of course, we've seen these visuals, Karthikeya. We have been discussing that the profile of the aircraft seems to be that the aircraft has its landing gear down. It is trying to find a spot to put the aircraft down safely. Just towards the end, as the camera zooms in, you'll see that the nose gets pulled up slightly. So it seems that the pilots have obviously seen that they're too close to a building that they're going to go into. Last-ditch effort, it seems that they're trying to pull on the stick to really miss that building, but unfortunately, they don't miss the building and the aircraft goes and crashes. Of course, we are also getting reports of casualties on ground, which is not surprising given the amount of ATF that these two tankers would have carried, given that the aircraft had to fly non-stop to London. So the aircraft was full of fuel, and on hitting the ground, those fuel tankers exploded, and that's a massive billowing of black smoke that we are seeing just after the explosion. Top right hand of the screen, obviously a massive explosion. It would have really shattered windows and shaken doors and people up from their slumber, and even worse. So it's definitely not a Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon that most people would be expecting. Especially the heart goes out to if the reports are confirmed that the aircraft did actually hit a hostel, and that hostel had children in the hostel on the premise as well. Perhaps if things are lucky for them, summer vacations, one can only hope that those children in the hostel would have gone home and the hostel would not have been at least as full as it would be outside.
Just hold your thoughts for a minute. Karthik, Kumar Kundan, our aviation correspondent, join me. Kumar, जरा बताइए आपके पास इस खबर पे लेटेस्ट अपडेट क्या है जो भयावह खबर अहमदाबाद से आई है?
As far as latest report is concerned, Civil Aviation Minister has already rushed to for the Ahmedabad, and he is on the way. First thing. Second thing, they had set up an inquiry regarding the plane crash, and third, they are not confirming, or they are not sure about the casualties. So we should wait for the official correspondent from the Ministry of Civil Aviation.
तो ये खबर सही है कि और भी कई बड़े लोग दिल्ली से वहां जा सकते हैं अहमदाबाद? कुमार, is it correct?
According to our source of information, probably Home Minister would be there. Probably, I'm not confirming this news, but Amit Shah has already spoken to Commissioner of Police. He is in touch with everybody, and every concerned authority. And there is a chaos at airports. Delhi airport. Everybody is trying to know about the situation of Ahmedabad, because passengers are at the airport, because there is a scheduled flight at 3:20, 4:20, 6 o'clock, and every flight is stalled at the airport. So there is a bit chaos at Delhi airport about the passenger whosoever is going to Ahmedabad. First thing. Second thing, as far as our knowledge is concerned, Ashwini Vaishnav, Railway Minister, has announced that we are running special Vande Bharat rack from Ahmedabad to Delhi because of there are so many passengers whosoever is stuck in Ahmedabad just because of probable shutdown of airport. So railway is running special trains for Ahmedabad. At the same time, RPF team, SDRF team and DRF team have already reached their spot. Kartike.
Mr. Karve, are you there with me? So, okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for continuously part of the News 9 coverage, sir. I really want to know what's the weight which this plane carries, sir. How big is this plane? And has there been any other incident of this particular 7878 Dreamliner connected to any accident, sir, if you may recall?
We have had incidents on 787, but this is the first fatal accident and hull loss on a 787-900. Okay, and this aircraft carries 100,000 kgs of fuel. So you can imagine it's like a ticking time bomb when it hits the ground. So I fully understand that there are going to be casualties on ground with so much of fuel available. And it's a very sad day for everyone in India and the United Kingdom also. I believe there were 50 plus British passengers also on board. And unfortunately, I want to target the image of Boeing, which has been going down. Just to deviate a little.
Sir, I'll come back to you. Let me introduce my other guest. I'll just come back to you. I'm also joined by Captain Amit Singh. Captain Amit Singh, your opening comments on this tragedy.
Very sad to see this happen, an aircraft taking off and then coming down. So clearly the aircraft has failed to sustain flight. Could be number of reasons for this. And in the past, we have seen such accidents happen, primarily because of overloading, speeds calculation, abroad in use of icing, which means the aircraft was heavier than what it was, could be a bird hit. So loss of thrust, basically, somewhere. And we can clearly see the nose going up, which means the pilot is trying to keep the nose up, but the engine thrust is not sufficient, or the lift is not sufficient to match that profile. So only an investigation, if we do an investigation sincerely, which we have not done in the past, not even one investigation has been done sincerely, will we come to know the root cause? We only go for the proximate cause, which means who is the first one.
Why did you say that, sir? Why did you say that one investigation has not been done seriously, sir? Why did you say that, sir?
Because we go for the proximate cause. Proximate cause only is done for legality's sake, to blame. That is for the courts to do. When they do a criminal investigation, they have to pin the blame on somebody. So that is the first person who was there, which is usually the pilot who does the error. But there could be a chain of errors which could end up with the pilot having to bear the problem. So that we will go do the root cause. Root cause goes deeper than the first cause. And if we eliminate that root cause, the accident will not repeat itself. Why do we see accidents repeating? After Aurangabad, which was an overloaded aircraft, the investigation report failed to clearly state that the aircraft was overloaded. In Trichy, the aircraft tail hit the wall. The aircraft was, we can say, presumably overloaded, but the aircraft was not weighed after landing. So we don't do such investigations. Even the Calicut, the aircraft and baggage was not weighed. So we don't know what the exact weight was. And we don't see the survivability of the accident. Survivability was the aircraft survivable? Was the crew could have been saved? Crew or passengers could have been saved? Our emergency time. So our accident investigation board, which the ICAO United Nations has put a red mark on it, we have had our ratings in terms of safety management system in the last audit. Accident investigation was not audited. And airports these were certain areas which are critical. The safety basically resides in the safety management system. And we had miserably failed in that. So we will see such accidents happen. Air India per se has been going down in terms of performance. We don't know who's running.
Mr. Singh, I would just like to stop you for a minute. I'm just dipping into a feed that is directly coming from Ahmedabad. This is directly coming in from Ahmedabad. नीरू, मेरी आवाज आ रही है आपको?
जी बिल्कुल, मैं आपको बता दूं, हॉस्पिटल स्टाफ की यहाँ पर व्यवस्था की गई है कि जितने भी लोगों को यहाँ पर ट्रीटमेंट के लिए लाया जा रहा है उनके लिए अलग से नोटिस बोर्ड लगाए गए हैं। आप देख सकते हैं, इस तरह से गुजराती में लिखा हुआ है कि जितने भी परिजन हैं वो कृपया करके कैंटीन में व्यवस्था की गई है उनके बैठने की, उनके वहां पर रुकने के लिए, और सभी वहां पर बैठ सकते हैं क्योंकि हॉस्पिटल के अंदर अभी सभी परिजनों को जाने की इजाजत नहीं दी जा रही है, क्योंकि आप समझ सकते हैं कि आंकड़ा बहुत ही बड़ा है। कैजुअलिटीज लोकल हुई थी, वो सभी कैजुअलिटी सभी लोगों को अंदर जाने की इजाजत नहीं दी, उनके लिए अलग कैंटीन में व्यवस्था की गई है। इस तरह से आप भीड़ देख रहे हैं, यहाँ पर पुलिस को भी तैनात किया गया है, फायर ब्रिगेड यहाँ पर तैनात, अलग से सिक्योरिटी यहाँ पर तैनात की गई है, और साथ ही हॉस्पिटल के स्टाफ तमाम मरीजन को भी मदद कर रहे हैं। जी मैं आपको बता दूं, इस हॉस्पिटल से जी बिल्कुल सुमेरा, मैं आपको बता दूं कि हॉस्पिटल से कुछ ही मीटर की दूरी पर एयरपोर्ट है, सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट, जहां से एयर इंडिया के इस विमान ने टेक ऑफ किया था और कुछ ही मिनटों में विमान क्रैश हो गया था। विमान क्रैश का लाइव वीडियो भी हमने देखा है, और जिस इमारत पर विमान क्रैश हुआ था, कहा जा रहा है कि यहाँ पर लगभग 1000 से ज्यादा बेड की एक रेजिडेंस डॉक्टर के लिए इमारत जो थी वो क्रैश हुआ है। डेफिनेटली जो कैजुअलिटीज के नंबर्स हैं वो धीरे धीरे बढ़ने की आशंका जताई जा रही है। जो लेटेस्ट अपडेट आया है, उस हिसाब से गुजरात के पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री विजय रूपानी भी इसी फ्लाइट में सवार, और इसीलिए थोड़ी देर पहले ही ये कंफर्मेशन आया है कि प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी भी अहमदाबाद पहुंचने वाले हैं, साथ ही गृह मंत्री कुछ ही देर में अहमदाबाद पहुंचने वाले हैं। तो अभी तक इसको लेकर ऑफिशियल कोई भी स्टेटमेंट सामने नहीं आ रहा है, लेकिन जिस तरह से सूत्र बता रहे हैं TV9 को, विजय रूपानी भी इसी फ्लाइट में शामिल थे, और आप देख रहे हैं कि इस वक्त एक एम्बुलेंस आई है।
Route to London crashed in a residential area. 5 minutes, only barely 5 minutes after taking off. On the show with me is Captain Amit. Captain, I want to come to you first. The visuals, of course, emerging of the devastation that has been caused as a result of that flight crash. But from the pictures that are emerging and the initial visuals that have come in, what can you ascertain? What really resulted in that crash?
We see the aircraft taking off fine, but later on mushing to the ground, and we can see the nose going up steadily, but the aircraft trajectory is going down, which is not the natural way. The aircraft takes off with the nose up and continues to go up. What sustains the aircraft is the engine thrust, which is sufficient for that nose up trajectory. Here, with the nose up means the aircraft is mushing to the ground, but the pilot is trying to keep the nose up, pulling up. That is a natural reaction, human reaction to save yourself. So that is what we see, and that is called a stall. Aircraft stalls when the wings fail to produce enough lift to sustain, and the engine thrust is not sufficient to counter. So either there is a error in the loading, the aircraft is overloaded and the pilot is not aware of that loading. It could happen because of computer input error or writing errors. There have been cases before, and there have been cases where like LL 787, there was a near miss when they made an error of 40 tons. Air France Cargo 777, 100 tons error. But they all somehow managed to get airborne. This aircraft got airborne but came down. So it could be a combination of a number of things. You have high temperatures. There could be a bird hit problem with the engine. So only an investigation will come to know. But
fair to say, Captain Amit Singh, at this point in time, that this could also be a Boeing 787 problem?
Anything is possible right now because we can't speculate. Why did could be an inadvertent flap retraction? That could be an anomaly or error. Could be a human error or a technical error. So right now, nothing can be ruled out unless we get some sort of flight data from the flight data recorder. And this will be available after preliminary report if it comes out after 30 days, or the final investigation if it comes out in time. So precedents, as per precedents, we don't get enough information, and people don't want to speculate. And even after the accident report comes out, people don't want to talk about it.
Right.
So it is put under wraps, and that is how we fail to learn from history and past reports and continue
but
to
I hope there's a change this time around, Captain, and I hope we learn from this, because I think this is as massive as it gets. About 250 people, their lives, in fact the casualties could be much higher, given that the plane crashed into a civilian area. We do know that it crashed into a hostel, a medical hostel, so perhaps there could be some students also as a part of that casualty number. We don't have a firm number, we'll try and get that number, but my colleague Neeru is at the civil hospital where many people, possible survivors as well as those who have died in that plane crash is concerned. She reports live from that area. Listen in.
देखिए यहाँ पर शोर इतना है, मुझे आपकी आवाज बहुत ही कम आ रही है, लेकिन यहाँ पर फिलहाल मैं सिविल हॉस्पिटल में मौजूद हूँ जो ट्रॉमा सेंटर भी है, और यहाँ पर किस तरह की स्थिति है वो मैं आपको बता देती हूँ। आप जिस तरह से देख रहे हैं, काफी अफरा तफरी का माहौल है, लोगों में डर है, लोग सहमे हुए हैं, क्योंकि कई ऐसे लोग हैं जिनके परिवार के लोग के जिनके मित्र इस विमान में सफर कर रहे थे। ऐसे लोग अपने परिजनों से मिलने के लिए हॉस्पिटल आए हैं। और सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको बता दूं कि ये जो हॉस्पिटल है, सिविल हॉस्पिटल, यहाँ से कुछ ही मीटर की दूरी पर सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट है, जहां पर ये भयानक हादसा हुआ है। गुजरात के इतिहास में अब तक का ये सबसे बड़ा हादसा मैं आपको बता दूं। और पीछे जिस तरह से आप भीड़ देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर, कि उनके जितने भी रिलेटिव्स हैं, जो पैसेंजर्स इस विमान में सवार थे, उनके जितने भी रिलेटिव्स हैं, वो सारे इस वक्त कैंटीन में मौजूद है। और यहाँ पर जो स्टाफ है हॉस्पिटल के, उन्होंने इस तरह की यहाँ पर उनके लिए व्यवस्था करके रखी है कि जितने भी परिजन आए हुए हैं उनको कैंटीन में एक जगह बैठने की और शांति रखने की सुविधा यहाँ पर दी गई है। काफी घंटों से यहाँ पर हम देख रहे हैं एम्बुलेंस भर भर कर यहाँ पर कैजुअल्टीज को लाया जा रहा है। अब तक जो ऑफिशियल फिगर दिए गए हैं उसके हिसाब से 50 से ज्यादा लोगों की मौत की आशंका जताई जा रही है और 100 से ज्यादा लोग गंभीर रूप से घायल हुए हैं। लेकिन मैं आपको बता दूं कि जिस तरह की स्थिति, जिस तरह का क्रैश यहाँ पर हुआ था, उसको देखकर ये अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता है कि ये आंकड़ा बढ़ने का जो है वो आशंका अभी जताई जा रही है। फिलहाल ये जो सिविल हॉस्पिटल आप देख रहे हैं, यहाँ पर काफी भीड़ देखी जा रही है।
All right, more than 50 people are feared dead. That's the latest coming in as far as that plane crash, the Air India AI 171 plane crash is concerned. Let me quickly run our viewers through what we know so far. Air India plane carrying about 242 passengers crashed moments after taking off from Ahmedabad airport. The plane was en route London. It crashed in a residential area 5 minutes after taking off from the Sardar Vallabh Bhai Patel airport. Visuals of the plane crash circulating on your screens are being recorded by people who were on ground, perhaps social media users also sharing those visuals live of the plumes of dark smoke in the sky. Among 242 members, 12 members were from the cabin crew. So a total of 230 were passengers, 2 pilots and 10 members of the cabin crew. The Prime Minister has taken a stock of the situation. Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu is rushing to Ahmedabad as we speak. Joining me on the show is Group Captain V.N. Jha. He's also an aviation expert. Group Captain, a massive tragedy of this nature hasn't been seen since 2010. So heads are definitely going to roll on what really transpired there. Now, it will be difficult to ascertain, as we've been trying to understand so far from all the experts, until we are able to recover the black box, until we know more on what's happened. But this nature of accident is unfathomable today, sir. Hasn't happened in decades.
Absolutely, Shweta. My, sincerity goes with the people who were in the plane. I hope some have come out from that. But the initial few clips that we have shown, it shows that very little time was available to them. But then there is one small silver lining, because we saw the ground where the plane has crashed on. There are a lot of trees in and around. So if the plane managed to touch down onto the ground, then it is possible that the emergency doors or the normal doors could have been opened by the cabin crew, because pilot was in command. I can see from the small clip that is showing that the plane is gradually coming down, and when it is very close to the surface of the ground, its attitude is something like a normal touchdown. So pilot is in control of the plane. He is just trying to land somewhere close. So this is what shows. This clip also shows that the two engines, there is no clear fire. I can't see any smoke trail coming from the engines. So that means the engine is not on the fire. Third thing, the plane has come gradually down, and I understand that it had gone to about 200 meters above the surface after takeoff.
Right. Group Captain, would it be fair to say that the pilot was in fact trying to land at a safe area, perhaps away from residents and away from civilian buildings? Because that's what we're looking at. Those visuals that are coming, it's barely a minute-long video where you can see the plane descending, the nose going up slightly, perhaps pilot there trying to avert an accident, but eventually comes down very slowly. So the pilot's perhaps till the very last second trying to avert that incident.
Yes, he has been trying to for that. He didn't have the power to maneuver the plane little further, because we understand that it has crashed into a hostel. That means he has not been able to get the plane landed on the planes. So this is unfortunate. On the first glance, it looks that there is a power loss in the engines. This has got a very efficient engine. 10,000 engines are there in this 787. And that is very capable of it. That can carry a hell lot of a load, much beyond. It is understood that about 40 to 50% above and over the authorized loads it can carry. So presently, what strikes me, that what can cause this engine to dwindle down or lose its thrust. That is one thing to be seen. Obviously, the two engines are showing that there is no trail of fire, that means no trail of smoke. That means the engine is not on the fire while the plane is airborne. So obviously there is a loss of thrust. Plane has come down. Another thing, usually we...
sir, I have to ask you, prima facie it appears to be an engine issue?
Yes, prima facie it looks to be that engine has lost its thrust. That's the first and foremost thing.
All right.
What reason? I don't know. There are many reasons in which engine can lose thrust. But in most of the cases, if there is a bird hit, there is a telltale sign in the air itself. Sometimes the engines catch fire. Sometimes there is a smoke trail, or engine may just...
But none of that is seen. None of that is seen. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I also have to apprise the viewers right now that video has been recorded from a civilian phone. So it's not a high quality video, so therefore we cannot really ascertain whether there was any smoke, if at all. All of this information is extremely preliminary. All of this information is now coming to light by the way of visuals and videos that have been shared by civilians on social media. We are trying to break and give you all the latest details emerging as far as government is concerned. But the latest that we know, Air India Boeing 787 has crashed in Ahmedabad. The Air India flight crashed near the Ahmedabad airport. It was carrying about 245 passengers. It is a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Dr. Sanat Kaul, who's the chairman of International Foundation for Aviation, Aerospace and Development, also joining us. Dr. Kaul, prima facie, as we were discussing, this appears to be an engine issue. And come to think of it, Boeing 787 Dreamliner has also faced some serious allegations in the past, including the FAA grounding these aircraft, suggesting that they perhaps may not be as solid and as dependable as Boeing may claim it to be. Then there have been some whistleblower allegations as well when that plane is concerned, and those allegations have been made in Western countries. As far as India is concerned, 787 has been relatively safe for us, but would it be fair to say right now that one needs to also investigate the entire line of 787?
Well, I don't think the entire line of 787 needs to be investigated, but maybe anything could happen. I mean, you can never say. Boeing had a lot of problem with 737s
India mein.
and their MAX aircrafts, which is true. But what has happened in this particular case, we don't know. I mean, as the previous speaker was saying, that there was no fire in the engine. So the thrust perhaps was an issue. Maybe it could be some other issue. We should not even leave out sabotage at this stage when the inquiry will go on and they will determine many things. Today, we can't even find the black box, but at the same time, I have heard on the television that the captain did give a Mayday type call to the air tower of Ahmedabad, but it didn't take too long for it to crash. So there was some issue when immediately after takeoff, it did take off, it seems, because it did not crash into the wall of the airport, but it took off and crashed immediately thereafter. So what happened is a matter of speculation at this stage, and it's very unfortunate, very tragic. But beyond that, it's very difficult to say anything just now.
Very, very tragic, very early to make any assessment on what led to the crash. Meanwhile, more details coming in. The Prime Minister of UK, Keir Starmer, has also reacted, saying the scenes emerging of a London-bound plane carrying many British nationals crashing in the Indian city of Ahmedabad are devastating. I'm being kept updated as the situation develops. My thoughts are with the passengers and their families at this deeply distressing time. More and more world leaders are now reacting to what seemed to have transpired in Ahmedabad. What we do know are that there are many casualties. About 50 is what our reporters are telling on ground. We'll try and confirm that number for you. But Dr. Kaul, as well as Group Captain V. N. Jha, continue to be with me. Group Captain V. N. Jha, I think we all agree at this point there is no point of conjecture, try and determine what happened there. But an extremely, heartbreaking tragedy involving an Air India flight. As questions, of course, also raised on Air India's maintenance capabilities, as has been raised earlier with Pratt & Whitney engines as far as, other airlines is concerned. One airline, of course, had to shut shop because Pratt & Whitney would not tend to the engines, but we don't know right now whether it was a maintenance issue or whether it was a plane issue.
There is no point in speculating. I have carried out 7 fatal aircraft accidents, but those were the aircrafts of Indian Air Force. Civil airline has got slight bit of different perspective, but the entire gamut of events remain something similar. Also, we know that in most of the accidents, fatal accidents, there are the mosaic of events that usually happens. It is usually not a single cause that so-and-so thing was there and that accident has happened. Here, there are many things, in the normal run to the takeoff. You must have also flown many of the sorties. You know that when we are at the takeoff point, the aircraft is under the brake. We increase the RPM. It goes to certain extent, and then we decide that yes, thrust is enough. All the engine parameters are normal, and then we release the brake and takeoff roll starts. Thereafter, somewhere just short of the halfway or maybe around halfway of the runway, there is a V1 speed that we gain. Once that speed is gained, usually the first pilot, he gives the call V1 achieved, and we unstick the aircraft, we take off. If the aircraft has taken off at that speed, it's the continuous process of gaining the speed when we put it at the slight nose up, and it continues gaining the speed. But here in this case, something has happened. If there was not enough of the speed, then he couldn't have sustained that much of time in flight. Usually aircraft lifts off and again falls down if the speed is not enough. So those things are there. I'm hinting at another factor in Indian Air Force. Usually we don't fly after the surface temperature goes beyond 40 degrees.
All right. Some more breaking news coming in. It does appear that the flight pilots issued a Mayday call just after taking off. However, lost touch with the ATC, the DGCA, Air India, and all the responsible authorities right now trying to assess the situation. The Mayday call was received minutes after the flight departure from Ahmedabad. After it took off, ATC lost control. There was no response to callbacks. As we can see, it was diving down at the moment. Aircraft suffered critical failure. That's what the ATC says at the moment. We can see the ruins, of course, are visible on our screens. DGCA, Air India are launching a joint probe in the matter. Captain Sumit Sabrawal was the commanding flight captain at the moment when the flight went down. It was minutes, in fact, after taking off from Ahmedabad airport. I also have to tell our viewers a little bit about the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, and I think that's also important, Dr. Kaul. When launched, this was a wide-body airliner that targeted to consume about 20% less fuel than its predecessor, which was the Boeing 767. It aimed to transport about 200 to 300 passengers point-to-point routes and up to 8,500 nautical miles. There were three variants at the moment. Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, which is the shorter variant, the one that has gone down in Ahmedabad today. Then there are two more variants, the 787-9 Dreamliner, which is a longer variant, and 787 Dreamliner longest. Hardik Patel, who's an MLA from Gujarat, joining us on the phone line. Hardik Patel, very difficult day for Gujaratis and for people living in Ahmedabad. More than 200 people seem to have been a part of that casualty, that plane crash that took place at afternoon today.
Hello.
Mr. Patel, can you hear me?
जी, आज बहुत ही दुखद घटना सिर्फ गुजरात के लिए नहीं बल्कि पूरे देश के लिए है और खास करके दोपहर 1:30 बजे की ये घटना हुई है कि अहमदाबाद का में जो प्लेन लंदन जा रहा था, वो अहमदाबाद के एक मेघानी नगर करके एक इलाका है जो ज्यादातर वहाँ लोग रहते हैं, वहीं पर ये विमान क्रैश हुआ है। और ज्यादातर ये बात भी चल रही है कि वो हमारे गुजरात के पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री विजय भाई रूपानी भी इस प्लेन में सवार थे। अभी तक जहां तक जो खबर यहाँ मीडिया के माध्यम से और प्रशासन के माध्यम से मिल रही है, जिसमें भारतीय 170 से ज्यादा थे और ब्रिटेन और पुर्तगाल के भी लोग थे। अब देखते हैं कि पूरी राहत बचाव की कामगिरी अभी यहाँ चल रही है और ज्यादातर एनडीआरएफ की टीम और खास पर स्थानिक प्रशासन वगैरह, फायर ब्रिगेड समेत पूरी टीम यहाँ बचाव कामगिरी में लगी हुई है।
जानना चाहूंगी क्या विजय रूपानी की फैमिली से आपकी बात हुई है? क्या आप कंफर्म कर पाएंगे कि क्या वो इस प्लेन में थे कि नहीं और क्या वो इस वक्त जिंदा है?
देखिए, सबसे पहले बात कि विजय भाई इसी प्लेन में सवार थे, लेकिन अभी तक फाइनल न्यूज नहीं है, लेकिन सभी को सारवार के लिए अस्पताल ले जा रहे हैं। लेकिन अब एक आध घंटे में ज्यादातर माहिती या पुख्ता सबूत के साथ बात बाहर आएगी, लेकिन अभी कहना मुश्किल है। लेकिन बहुत सारे लोग थे, जिसमें 170 तो इंडियन थे, तो अभी तो लोगों की जांच करेंगे, कौन सा मृतदेह किसका है उस पर भी जांच होगी, उसके बाद सारी हकीकत बाहर आएगी। लेकिन अभी तो हम यही कह सकते हैं कि सब लोगों को तुरंत अस्पताल लेके जा रहे हैं और खास पर सभी को स्वस्थ करने में पूरा प्रशासन लगा हुआ है।
पटेल जी, आपसे ये भी जानना चाहूंगी कि आप गुजरात से हैं, क्या कुछ सुनने में आ रहा है आपको? होम मिनिस्टर पहुंचने वाले हैं, सिविल एविएशन मिनिस्टर वहां पहुंच रहे हैं, आप क्या बता पा सकते हैं हमें कितने लोग मरे हैं? 50 लोग माने जा रहे हैं कि लगभग 50 लोगों की मृत्यु हो चुकी है, क्या ये नंबर आप कंफर्म कर पा रहे हैं?
देखिए, जहां तक मैं समझता हूँ कि इतना बड़ा जब हादसा होता है तो आप और हम समझते हैं कि बड़ी ट्रेजरी हुई है और अभी तक मीडिया के माध्यम से और स्थानिक प्रशासन के माध्यम से 50 से अधिक लोगों की मृत्यु के समाचार भी है। माननीय अमित भाई जो हमारे गृह मंत्री है, वो और 2-4 केंद्रीय मंत्री भी गुजरात आने के लिए रवाना हुए हैं। लेकिन ज्यादातर जो न्यूज है, जो पुख्ता न्यूज है, वो हमको 1-1.5 घंटे के बाद ज्यादा मिलेगी। अभी तो हम यहाँ सबकी अच्छी के लिए प्रार्थना कर सकते हैं और जल्द से जल्द राहत जो कामगिरी चल रही है उसमें सहयोग करने के लिए मैं आपके माध्यम से गुजरात के सभी लोगों को आह्वान करता हूँ।
Hardik Patel, thank you very much, sir, for taking time out for joining us from Gujarat right now. Of course, all Gujaratis have come together to pour their condolences for the families of those who have suffered injuries or possibly death. About 53 British passengers on board. Many Portugal passengers were also on board. 245 people on board that unfortunate aircraft that went down earlier today. Ex-Chief Minister Vijay Rupani was also on board and Hardik Patel there confirming that he was on board. More details on his whereabouts and his health will be shared very shortly. Also joining us is Vice Air Marshal P.K. Srivastava. Mr. Srivastava, thank you very much, sir, for taking time out. I have to ask you, what are you making of the initial cause of that flight crash? It's extremely unfortunate. We were also trying to understand from other civil aviation experts on what could have resulted in that plane going down as it did. It does appear that towards the very end, there is no thrust in the plane. There could not be a possible bird hit. We can't see fumes before, it goes down. What do you are certain as to what really happened there?
Firstly, my really heartfelt condolences to all the passengers, families, and other people who are probably into this, and families are going through all the trauma. Basically, it's a very sad day for aviation and history of flying, because this is one of the worst disasters we will ever say and see. The way aircraft has taken off and the visuals, the way we see it, it doesn't seem to be a case of bird hit normally, which we see during takeoff and landing. This kind of thing can occur because there is no change in the attitude of the aircraft. Aircraft is going same plane level. It appears as if the aircraft lost or engines lost all their power and aircraft was without engines. Now the best, what we want to now find out, or I want to guess probably, is that how and why this should happen, what would have happened. And pilot was able to give Mayday call. That means there was not total electrical failure in the aircraft. The other thing is, a very, one of the rarest cases could be that both engines got, they ceased, flamed out together. There was a huge bird ingestion in both the engines. If you ask me, has it ever happened in the history of aviation? Yes, if you Google, you'll find once in the history of aviation, this kind of thing has happened, but both engines, they ingested, like the one which was, Hudson River miracle, we know, their geese went into both the engines and I want to come to that.
I want to come to similar such cases. Air Vice Marshal, President of India has also reacted on that deeply distressing tragedy. She wrote, and I quote, "I'm deeply distressed to learn about the tragic plane crash in Ahmedabad. It is a heart-rending disaster. My thoughts and prayers are with affected people. The nation stands with them in this hour of indescribable grief." So, Prime Minister, President, Home Minister, the entire country currently mourning the loss of people who may have died. We're not able to give you the exact numbers because that is not confirmed. Air Vice Marshal P.K. Srivastava, coming back to you, sir, you said similar such tragedies have happened where both the engines simultaneously failed, such as in case of Hudson River, but that was a different time because all the passengers were saved there. The captain was very well able to land in Hudson.
So the idea was that time he had the advantage of height, he was cruising and he could react, and there was a river in front and he could do the thing. But when you see this is in a habited area, where residential area, he's just taken off, there's a critical moment and there's no latitude or there's no kind of thing available to the captain of the aircraft. He was really helpless. There's hardly any height. Well, as you see the height, it appears to be he was probably at 500 to 700 feet. So he had no advantage, nothing in his favor. Therefore, he said Mayday. And he doesn't have, definitely it appears he has no engines running. So the idea is how this could happen. How could we lose both the engines together at the same time? So that's something which is to be investigated. And making any guesses now may cause some kind of stir. I would not like to hazard a guess as of now. But I can only say both the engines seized together, and that's one of the rarest things which happens. Why I quoted that this thing, because somebody can pull out and say it happened once and the pilot was able to save the aircraft. That was a different situation altogether. It was, the aircraft was coming for landing, it lost both engines, it had the height and speed, and it could then manage and do the miracle. Here the pilot has just taken off.
External factors.
Speed, maybe 160 knots or something like that, as per 787.
174 knots, in fact, was the speed at the time of the crash. And you're right, sir. The situation was very different then as it was today. Very different from what happened there today. It was near the civilian area, in fact, crashing into a medical college there in Ahmedabad. I want to also bring in Dr. Kaul into this conversation. Dr. Kaul, I'm sure you're aware of the whistleblower allegations against Boeing. Sam Salapor's allegation on the fact that there is an error in the 787 Dreamliner, for its fuselage is not fastened together. Those allegations were also looked into by the US. FAA had also grounded many 787 Dreamliners. But as far as India is concerned, these planes have been relatively safe for us.
Well, we've had no problem with these planes. As far as Boeing company is concerned, they were under heavy investigation by the US Congress and Senate, I think, and there's a full report on it. They have castigated them for cutting short processes. Safety measures were cut short. They saved a lot of money. Dr.
Kaul, I'm sorry to butt in, sir. Some more reactions are coming in. Let's quickly listen in.
लगभग 45 मिनट पहले हादसा हुआ है। जो पार्किंग है वो पता नहीं कितने कैजुअलिटी हो नहीं बता सकते। वो पूरा बिल्डिंग है जो डॉक्टर रहते हैं उस बिल्डिंग में, रेजिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग है, उसमें डॉक्टर रहते हैं। जो सिविल नहीं वो सरकारी बना के, हाँ रेजिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग है जो सरकारी बना रखा है। रखते हैं लोग, वो दोनों बिल्डिंगों में लोग रहते हैं। वो 100% हुई होगी, उसके बाद पता चलेगा। शुक्रिया, थैंक यू।
All right, those are reactions, of course, coming in of the people who were on ground, who saw that accident happening, first-hand witnesses of that unfortunate tragedy. Yes, Dr. Kaul.
Boeing company has been under a lot of investigation by the United States, by the FAA. In fact, they found fault with FAA, giving too much, divesting too much of their own thing to the Boeing company to do the security checkup, to the safety checkup, and so on. So Boeing company has been under investigation, but this particular aircraft has been running with Air India for a long time now. And this particular aircraft, there was no particular defect, to the best of my knowledge, with any of the Dreamliners. So, and the Trent engine, which I think they all have, the Rolls-Royce Trent engine. So what has happened now to this aircraft and how did it crash is something very speculative, and we'll have to find the black box.
Dr. Kaul, we'll try and get you back. Black box would be important to ascertain what really transpired there. Let's also quickly listen into some other reactions coming from political circles on that tragedy that unfolded in the afternoon today.
दुर्घटनाग्रस्त हो गया है, अभी एग्जैक्ट जानकारी नहीं आई है, लेकिन ये मालूम है कि उसमें 242 लोग सवार थे, लेकिन उसमें कितने क्या हुए इसकी एग्जैक्ट जानकारी अभी नहीं आई।
अहमदाबाद में एक प्लेन क्रैश हुआ है। बताते हैं अहमदाबाद से वह लंदन के लिए जा रहा था और उसमें कुछ इस दुर्घटना के कारण प्लेन क्रैश होने के नाते बहुत सारे यात्रियों को अपनी जान गंवानी पड़ी है। ईश्वर से मैं सबकी सुरक्षित रहने की कामना करता हूं। इस दुखद घटना के लिए मेरी सभी जितने भी पीड़ित परिवार हैं उन सब के प्रति हमारी संवेदना है।
टेक ऑफ के बाद यहाँ पे क्रैश हो गई है, जिसमें प्रिलिमिनरी हमें पता चला है कि 223 जितने पैसेंजर थे। यहाँ पे जिस बिल्डिंग के ऊपर गिरी है वो डॉक्टर्स का हॉस्टल है। इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियां, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे।
बहुत
कितने लोगों की मौत कुछ
अभी कोई अंदाजा नहीं लग रहा है।
ये ऐसी खबरें चल रही है रूपानी साहब थे ऐसा कुछ
नहीं, अभी ऐसा कुछ पता नहीं है कि क्या है।
मैडम हालात कैसे, रेसिडेंशियल इलाका था क्या ये?
डॉक्टरों का रेसिडेंशियल इलाका था, उनका फ्लैट था।
पर ये कितने बजे हुआ कुछ?
बस 2-2:30 के बीच।
कुछ अंदाजा?
मुझे तो कुछ पता ही नहीं, जैसा मुझे पता चला इसे ऐसा हूँ मैं भागी हूँ।
कितने मौत कितनी हो सकती फिर भी?
वो तो प्लान में जो लोग थे उनका तो पता नहीं है।
रहने वालों की भी कुछ हुई?
रहने वालों को भी बहुत नुकसान हुआ है। कितने आगे का जो ब्लॉक है ना उसमें से सब निकले हैं, वो सही है। थोड़ा उनको हमने हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट किया है।
अभी रेस्क्यू चलेगा?
अभी चलेगा।
All right, that's the latest as far as that plane crash is concerned, which fell from an altitude of about 625 feet. Let me quickly give you a breakdown of how many people were on that aircraft. The flight, Air India flight AI-171 crash incident, which was supposed to take off from Ahmedabad for London Gatwick Airport at about 13:38, which is about 1:40 in the afternoon, was carrying about 242 passengers, crew members on the Boeing 787-8 aircraft. Of the 169 were Indian nationals, 53 are British national, 1 Canadian, 7 Portuguese. So far, we know that the Prime Minister has taken stock of the situation. He's spoken to the Home Minister. He's asked the Aviation Minister to be at the site of the crash to help assist with the rescue operations and ensure that all possible help is made available to those who are currently a part of that tragedy. The incident, of course, took place in Ahmedabad, and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport was not operational up until now. Some flights are now being allowed to take off. All right, we do know Rahul Gandhi, the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, has also reacted to the incident, suggesting that the Ahmedabad air crash is in fact heartbreaking, is as he calls it. The pain and anxiety the families of the passengers and crew must be feeling is unimaginable. My thoughts are with each of them in this incredible, difficult moment. All right, we do have reaction from MOS Civil Aviation, the Minister for Civil Aviation. Let's quickly listen in.
एयर इंडिया का AI-171 जो अहमदाबाद से लंदन जाने वाला था वो क्रैश हो गया है। उसमें कुल 242 लोग थे, 230 पैसेंजर थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो वहां पे अभी सब राहत का कार्य शुरू है, बचाव का कार्य वहां पे शुरू है। हमारे मिनिस्ट्री में भी अभी हमने एक वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों की एक बैठक भी करी है। माननीय देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई और हमारे मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू जी वहां पे पहुंच रहे। मैं भी यहां से अभी निकल रहा हूं। तो अभी जांच तो शुरू है, वरिष्ठ लेवल पे हमारी मीटिंग भी अभी यहाँ पे हुई है। उसमें हमारे सेक्रेटरी थे, DGCA थे। तो एक्चुअली उसमें रीजन क्या है, कितनी कैजुअलिटीज है, और वहां पे अभी इमरजेंसी में जो बचाव राहत का कार्य चल रहा है उस पर चर्चा हुई है। अभी किसी बात पर बोलना यानी कि कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, क्या हुआ है, तो उस पर थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा। पहला मुझे लगता है कि प्रायोरिटी हमारी यही है कि जो वहां पे लोग फंसे हैं, जो लोग अभी वहां पे इंजर्ड है, उनको बाहर निकालना है, उनको इमरजेंसी में मदद करना है। तो इसीलिए हमारी टीम अभी जुड़ी है, हम वहां पे पहुंच रहे हैं।
All right. More and more details emerging with each passing minute of that London-bound flight that crashed earlier in the afternoon today. So far, reports suggesting that about 50 people are feared dead. Home Minister has rushed to the spot. There was a Mayday call issued by the first flight attendant, the pilot, right after taking off. But within 5 minutes, that plane went down, resulting in thick plumes of smoke emerging on our screens. We're bringing you every minute-to-minute detail of that Air India flight, which was carrying about 242 passengers, which crashed near Ahmedabad airport. What's more unfortunate is that flight crashing in civilian area at the BJ Medical College in Ahmedabad, resulting in further casualties just as yet, but about 20 students are also feared dead as a result of that plane crash at the BJ Medical College site. See numbers for emergency services and information regarding the Ahmedabad plane crash. Families and relatives of the passengers on board flight AI 171 are also told to call at numbers which includes, we'll try and put that on our screens in just about a minute, 0795562039. That's one of the emergency numbers. If you have any family or relative who could be on board the AI 171 flight, you can reach out to authorities at 07925620359. Let's quickly listen in to my colleague Liru, who was at the civilian hospital where injured are currently admitted.
देखिए यहाँ पर शोर इतना है, मुझे आपकी आवाज बहुत ही कम आ रही है, लेकिन यहाँ पर फिलहाल मैं सिविल हॉस्पिटल में मौजूद हूँ जो ट्रॉमा सेंटर भी है, और यहाँ पर किस तरह की स्थिति है वो मैं आपको बता देती हूँ। आप जिस तरह से देख रहे हैं काफी अफरा तफरी का माहौल है, लोगों में डर है, लोग सहमे हुए हैं क्योंकि कई ऐसे लोग हैं जिनके परिवार के लोग के जिनके मित्र इस विमान में सफर कर रहे थे, ऐसे लोग अपने परिजनों से मिलने के लिए हॉस्पिटल आए हैं। और सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको बता दूं कि ये जो हॉस्पिटल है सिविल हॉस्पिटल, यहाँ से कुछ ही मीटर की दूरी पर सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट है जहां पर ये भयानक हादसा हुआ है। गुजरात के इतिहास में अब तक का ये सबसे बड़ा हादसा मैं आपको बता दूं। और पीछे जिस तरह से आप भीड़ देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर कि उनके जितने भी रिलेटिव्स हैं, जो पैसेंजर्स इस विमान में सवार थे, उनके जितने भी रिलेटिव्स हैं वो सारे इस वक्त कैंटीन में मौजूद है। और यहाँ पर जो स्टाफ है हॉस्पिटल के, उन्होंने इस तरह की यहाँ पर उनके लिए व्यवस्था करके रखी है कि जितने भी परिजन आए हुए हैं उनको कैंटीन में एक जगह बैठने की और शांति रखने की सुविधा यहाँ पर दी गई है। काफी घंटों से यहाँ पर हम देख रहे हैं एम्बुलेंस भर भर कर यहाँ पर कैजुअल्टीज को लाया जा रहा है। अब तक जो ऑफिशियल फिगर दिए गए हैं उसके हिसाब से 50 से ज्यादा लोगों की मौत की आशंका जताई जा रही है और 100 से ज्यादा लोग गंभीर रूप से घायल हुए हैं। लेकिन मैं आपको बता दूं कि जिस तरह की स्थिति, जिस तरह का क्रैश यहाँ पर हुआ था, उसको देखकर ये अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता है कि ये आंकड़ा बढ़ने का जो है वो आशंका अभी जताई जा रही है। फिलहाल ये जो सिविल हॉस्पिटल आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर काफी भीड़ देखी जा रही है।
Colleague Neeru there at the civil hospital trying to ascertain the number of people who are currently admitted there. She's saying about 50 people are feared to be dead. We'll try and update that number for you. But there's also reaction come in for the very first time from Ministry of Civil Aviation. The MOS reacted just a couple of minutes ago. He suggested that Air India AI flight 171, a flight from Ahmedabad to London, accepting has crashed. There were a total of 242 people on board, 230 passengers, 12 crew members. Relief and rescue operations have started on site. The ministry has also held a meeting with senior officials. Home Minister and the Union Minister for Civil Aviation, Ram Mohan Naidu, are reaching. A high-level meeting has also taken place, which was attended by Secretary and DGCA, which is the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, the body responsible for civil aviation safety in the country. Discussions were held on the reasons for the casualties and the ongoing emergency rescue operation. It's too early to comment on the exact number of casualties or what really happened. Priority is to rescue the people who are trapped and injured and provide them with emergency assistance. The team is engaged. We are reaching there. Our top priority is to save as many people as possible, provide them with emergency services, and we'll discuss the other details later. Those are the details emerging by the way of the Ministry of Civil Aviation, the MOS reacting for the first time since that tragedy. Let's listen in to what the Civil Aviation Minister said just a couple of minutes ago.
एयर इंडिया का AI-171 जो अहमदाबाद से लंदन जाने वाला जो फ्लाइट था वो क्रैश हो गया है। उसमें कुल 242 लोग थे, 230 पैसेंजर थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो वहां पे अभी सब राहत का कार्य शुरू है, बचाव का कार्य वहां पे शुरू है। हमारे मिनिस्ट्री में भी अभी हमने एक वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों की एक बैठक भी करी है। माननीय देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई और हमारे मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू जी वहां पे पहुंच रहे। मैं भी यहां से अभी निकल रहा हूं। तो अभी जांच तो शुरू है, वरिष्ठ लेवल पे हमारी मीटिंग भी अभी यहाँ पे हुई है। उसमें हमारे सेक्रेटरी थे, DGCA थे। तो एक्चुअली उसमें रीजन क्या है, कितनी कैजुअलिटीज है, और वहां पे अभी इमरजेंसी में जो बचाव राहत का कार्य चल रहा है उस पर चर्चा हुई है। अभी किसी बात पर बोलना यानी कि कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, क्या हुआ है, तो उस पर थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा। पहला मुझे लगता है कि प्रायोरिटी हमारी यही है कि जो वहां पे लोग फंसे हैं, जो लोग अभी वहां पे इंजर्ड है, उनको बाहर निकालना है, उनको इमरजेंसी में मदद करना है। तो इसीलिए हमारी टीम अभी जुड़ी है, हम वहां पे पहुंच रहे हैं।
The Minister for Civil Aviation reacting for the very first time on that tragedy that happened later in the afternoon today. We do know now that there are more casualties, more people feared dead. 50 is what we're reporting at the moment. Many media houses, publications reporting as many as 120 people who may have died. Those are of course all speculations. We'll try and get you a final number soon. My colleague Karthik Malhotra joining us live from the newsroom. Karthik, the details around the tragedy continue to unfold, but one thing is quite clear from the visuals that have emerged, that plane, the pilot did his best to keep it on air. All right. Okay, so more visuals there that have come in, Karthik, as we can see on our screens right now. The pilot, as I was saying, tried to keep it afloat, tried to ensure that he moves away from civilian areas. We now know that the plane crash landed in one of the medical colleges in Ahmedabad, and the visuals of course on our screen suggesting that despite his efforts, the pilot wasn't able to really take the plane away from civilian area or civilian infrastructure.
You're right, Shweta, and tragic as it may be, unfortunately there's very little that the pilot could have presumably done in the situation that confronted both of them at the time of flying the aircraft, at the time of taking off. I have been speaking to a few pilot friends of mine and trying to really understand and deconstruct what has been going on, perhaps, looking at these visuals, if there's some sense of rationale that can be drawn. And the only logical or plausible assumption that is coming to mind right now for most of these pilots that I've spoken to, Shweta, is the fact that that things were okay until the aircraft was rolling off the ground. It's only after the aircraft nose was pitched upwards and the aircraft took to the skies, which is when something has happened in the aircraft. Something has happened definitely with some degree of certainty. Everybody I've spoken to can assure me that something has happened with the engines, and the engines have lost power. Now remember, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner is a dual engine aircraft. Now, one would logically question that if an engine failure has happened, what are the chances that both the engines could have flamed out together? Now, it's not the first time in the history that it has happened that both the engines have flamed out together. It has happened in the past. In fact, the movie Sully was an example of that, and eventually the aircraft did land in the Hudson River safe. That was a case of, the movie was of course based on real life, and the pilot's name was Sully, Captain Sully, who did successfully bring down the aircraft with a dual engine failure. But that notwithstanding, it seems to be a case that engines have flamed out, both the engines have flamed out. The fact that all this has happened immediately after takeoff, and again you can ascertain that because it's been just minutes after being given the clearance to take off at 1:39 p.m. that the aircraft, the pilots have given a Mayday call to the ATC. So now if the Mayday call has been given just seconds after lifting off, that means something has happened immediately after takeoff, and that something is what we can see from the visuals. Also, there is no power in the engines of the aircraft. Both the the engines have flamed out together. There is no power in the engines, and hence the pilots are not able to complete the takeoff procedure. The undercarriage is still down and the aircraft is gently gliding down towards the ground. Now, had any of the one engines of the aircraft also had any power, the pilot would have been able to maneuver the aircraft, take it away from civilian area. Now, again, my pilot friends are telling me there are two things that you require. You either require, preferably both, but definitely either one of the two. You either require power in the engines or you require altitude for the pilot to be able to make any decisive maneuver which can bring the aircraft down successfully and without causing any harm to the passengers or to infrastructure nearby. In this case, there was no power in the engine. Yeah, there was definitely no altitude. There was no power in the engines. And both these scenarios resulted in the catastrophe, in the damaging sort of reality that we are seeing on our screens right now. Now again, look at the aircraft and look at the picture of the aircraft towards the end. If you see the visuals on the left hand side of the screen, the aircraft is coming down. The angle of attack is as if it wants to come towards the ground, it wants to land. But just seconds before, as the camera zooms in, Shweta, monitor closely, as the camera zooms in, you're seeing that the pilots are trying to pitch the nose of the aircraft up. They are seeing that there is this eventuality, that there's a building in sight and the aircraft, given its altitude, will not be able to miss the building. It doesn't have power, but it is still pitching the nose up, trying to avoid it. But given the fact that the engines don't have power, it goes in.
And scary visuals there. Karthik, stay with us. Captain Shyam Kumar is also joining us. Captain Shyam Kumar, as you heard my colleague there explaining that you either needed thrust power in one of the engines or you needed altitude. Clearly, on our screens, we can see neither there is altitude and captains seem to have lost thrust as well. Both engines either failed or refused to work in that moment. These are all theories, working theories at the moment, possible reasons for that plane going down as it did.
First of all, my sympathies to the families who lost their teen, and I wish the hospital rescue team, the hospital authorities take care of the people who are injured and they evacuate the dead bodies immediately, and the injured are treated quickly, and the rescue team are doing their work at DRF, SDRF, etc. Coming to the point, with my flying experience as a naval pilot and also in the flight safety team of Naval Headquarters at Delhi, and being committee member of Air Force Army exam committee during the Rang De Basanti movie which came, we have done some kind of analysis on the aircraft accidents. First point, the aircraft on a takeoff leg. Takeoff and landing phases of the aircraft operations are most critical phase. World over 60% of the accidents happen during this phase because aircraft is quite in a delicate situation while landing and during takeoff. Especially during takeoff, it is most critical phase of flight and it is most challenging for the pilot because that time it is under full power and under full load of its destination, and it is at a very low height. All three factors are against the aircraft technicalities for remaining airborne. So here we know the aircraft took off from runway. It has ran through the runway and left the runway. Undercarriage was down. As you see in the video, you are seeing it, and it is going straight forward as it touches about 825 feet of height. Just before that, pilot gives a Mayday call. That means it is a likely chance of either engine failure or bird hit. When there is a bird hit, the aircraft, one engine will flame out. And in this case, the second engine may not be able to sustain the requirement of the thrust that it needs to remain airborne. Therefore, the second engine will not be able to hold the aircraft in that situation as the aircraft nose is pitching up and it is trying to get a safe height from where they can reduce power and then they can manage the engines, either one engine or two engines. So therefore, the ATC, air traffic controller, generally tells the aircraft to depart straight ahead up to 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet, and then only the aircraft turns. So my audience through your channel should know the aircraft was in a very, very critical stage of flight and it had no choice to go anywhere other than to just land straight ahead. And if there is a clear patch straight ahead, a pilot could have endeavored and made their best skills as they were very experienced to land straight ahead. But unfortunately, there was no clear patch. There was a building, there was a doctor's mess in the hospital, and aircraft had no choice other than to just stall onto the buildings. And that's what he did.
And
he
had
could not
minutes
have
to
turned,
pivot.
he couldn't have
Absolutely.
maneuvered the aircraft. There is
Captain
no
Kumar,
question.
they had minutes to pivot. We now know that the entire incident unfolded in less than 5 minutes. That they had only minutes to pivot, and there was absolutely no clear patch of land nearby. And it does look like Captain, in the very last moment, trying to do the best he can. On our screens just a while ago were the visuals of Bhupendra Patel, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, who is also now visiting the civil hospital in Gujarat. Let's get that back on our screens. Remember, authorities are now rushing in to hospitals, ensuring that relief and rescue mission is at a lightning pace. Chief Minister there on our screens at the moment. We now know that Civil Aviation Minister is also hoping to land in Gujarat very soon. Home Minister is also scheduled to be in Gujarat. It's a tragedy that's caught everybody off guard. Happening just this afternoon with the plane, the Air India flight crashing at about 1:40 this afternoon. My colleague Karthik Malhotra continues to be with me. Karthik, as we try and ascertain what really happened here, you know, you were giving an example of Hudson and Captain Sali. I think he was lucky. There was Hudson there. There was nothing here. This was primarily a civilian area with clearly no clear patch of land, as we can see on our screens. It had to crash land, and if it did crash land, I believe the captain there tried making every attempt to move beyond that densely populated area, but clearly there wasn't enough thrust.
Yeah, exactly. So, Shweta, I mean, given the fact that the aircraft had just taken off and did not have the advantage of altitude, because, you know, when you have altitude, you can at least maneuver the aircraft physically, even in the absence of both the engines or either one of the engines working. In this case, of course, as we can see, the aircraft has only just taken off. The undercarriage is still down. The wheels are still down. It is still perhaps momentum and inertia is, according to pilots that I've spoken to, is what carried the aircraft to that altitude of about 625 feet. But perhaps the the issue with the aircraft happened well before the 625 feet was achieved by the pilots. Now again, there were some theories, and I was hearing some experts on our channel earlier alluding to the fact that perhaps the fuel supply to the engines could have possibly snapped, and that could be one of the reasons why both the engines cut off and flamed out. Now that again, according to pilots who have studied the 787 Dreamliner, have confirmed to me that there is not one but there are two sources of fuel supply to the two engines. So this is something which has already been built in, that fuel supply should not be the reason for both the engines to flame out. So there are two fuel tankers, one under each of the two wings of the aircraft, and there are separate fuel supplies going to both the engines, which means the theory that perhaps fuel did not reach both the engines and that resulted in the flame out are not theories that are to be believed at this stage right now, because there are separate fuel supplies that go into both the engines. So the probability of that happening together seems fairly low. However, the probability of another event is a little higher, and that is the eventuality of a bird hit. Now, I was looking at some DGCA data and some stories that have reported that data, that after Delhi, in fact, Delhi has the maximum number of bird strikes, but after Delhi, it is the Ahmedabad airport which has the maximum number of bird strikes. It ranks number 2 overall in the country as far as birds are concerned. Now, again, pilots who have flown in that area have also confirmed to me that there is a reason for that, and the reason for the high number of bird strikes is the number of butcheries which are around the airport area. We've asked one of our reporters to go ahead and confirm that for us on ground, but because of the butcheries that operate in and around the airport perimeter, maybe outside the airport perimeter, but in that vicinity, in that proximity, is the reason why there are birds which sort of feed on the remains of the butchery, and hence they are usually flying at low level and likely to interfere with the takeoff or the landing procedures for aircraft. So there's a possibility of two bird strikes, two simultaneous bird strikes, just at the time that the aircraft was leaving ground. It was inertia that took the aircraft up until the altitude of 625, and that is when the engines flamed out. there's no time at 625 feet when you're just about struggling with power to keep the aircraft afloat. There is absolutely no time. 625 feet to zero will take you just a few seconds. And there's precious little that pilots can do with no altitude, with no engine power to guide the aircraft away from populated areas like the one that this unfortunate incident took place in and the aircraft crashed. Now again, talk about the volume of fuel that is carried, Shweta. It's about 100,000 liters, 100,000 kilograms, 1 lakh kg of fuel which is carried on on this particular Dreamliner when it is likely to be en route from Ahmedabad to London. And then of course that's an inferno that gets caused. One
lakh kgs of ATF,
and
absolutely.
it becomes an inferno.
1 lakh kgs of ATF there becoming an inferno, and the plumes of smoke emerging on our screens, the visuals that have been captured by civilians, by people who were in that area, possibly through their phones. We continue to bring you all those details. Let me also quickly get in other experts, but perhaps in just a minute from now, let's listen into reactions that have come in from political circles. The Chief Minister of UP has reacted, Civil Aviation Minister has reacted. Let's listen in.
एयर इंडिया का AI-171 जो अहमदाबाद से लंदन जाने वाला जो फ्लाइट था वो क्रैश हो गया है। उसमें कुल 242 लोग थे, 230 पैसेंजर थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो वहां पे अभी सब राहत का कार्य शुरू है। अमित भाई और हमारे मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू जी वहां पे पहुंच रहे, मैं भी यहां से अभी निकल रहा हूं। तो अभी जांच तो शुरू है, वरिष्ठ लेवल पे हमारी मीटिंग भी अभी यहाँ पे हुई है, उसमें हमारे सेक्रेटरी थे, डीजीसीए थे। तो एक्चुअली उसमें रीजन क्या है, कितनी कैजुअलिटीज है, और वहां पे अभी इमरजेंसी में जो बचाव राहत का कार्य चल रहा है उस पर चर्चा हुई है। अभी किसी बात पर बोलना यानी कि कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, क्या हुआ, तो उस पर थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा। पहला मुझे लगता है कि प्रायोरिटी हमारी यही है कि जो वहां पे लोग फंसे हैं, जो लोग अभी वहां पे इंजर्ड है, उनको बाहर निकालना है, उनको इमरजेंसी में मदद करना है। तो इसीलिए हमारी टीम अभी जुड़ी है, हम वहां पे पहुंच रहे हैं।
दुर्घटनाग्रस्त हो गया है, अभी एग्जैक्ट जानकारी नहीं आई है, लेकिन ये मालूम है कि उसमें 242 लोग सवार थे, लेकिन उसमें कितने क्या हुए इसकी एग्जैक्ट जानकारी अभी नहीं आई।
अहमदाबाद में एक प्लेन क्रैश हुआ है। बताते हैं अहमदाबाद से वह लंदन के लिए जा रहा था और उसमें कुछ इस दुर्घटना के कारण प्लेन क्रैश होने के नाते बहुत सारे यात्रियों को अपनी जान गंवानी पड़ी है। ईश्वर से मैं सबकी सुरक्षित रहने की कामना करता हूं। इस दुखद घटना के लिए मेरी सभी जितने भी पीड़ित परिवार हैं उन सब के प्रति हमारी संवेदना है।
के बाद यहाँ पे क्रैश हो गई है, जिसमें प्रिलिमिनरी हमें पता चला है कि 223 जितने पैसेंजर थे। यहाँ पे जिस बिल्डिंग के ऊपर गिरी है वो डॉक्टर्स का हॉस्टल है। तो इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियां, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे।
A major disaster starting this morning, which has spread a lot of tragedy and sorrow all across. A London-bound Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner carrying 230 passengers and 12 crew members crashed into a medical college hostel minutes after taking off from the Ahmedabad airport this afternoon. Visuals captured on mobile camera showed the aircraft losing altitude rapidly and crashing in a ball of fire. There were 169 Indians, 53 British, 1 Canadian and 7 Portuguese nationals on board the Air India flight AI-171 from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick. Plumes of thick smoke spiraled up in the air soon after, and ambulances and firefighting teams rushed to the spot. The plane crashed into the hostel of the BJ Medical College and Hospital. Mangled parts of the plane and parts of the wreckage jutted out of the gutted building. Many students are also among those injured. Some of them were rushed to the city civil hospital close by. Those are the live visuals on your screen right now. These are the live where you see that rescue operations are still on. You can see plumes of smoke, thick smoke, which has surrounded the building there, and also you see debris on the ground as of now, perhaps remnants of the plane and also other debris which could be belongings of those who were traveling by the plane. Live visuals on your screens for those who have just joined. This was an Ahmedabad London flight. This was the Dreamliner, Boeing Dreamliner 787, and there you see rescue operations in full swing, and all of them are trying to rescue. You also see firefighters there, ready to extinguish the fire which is billowing up. Plumes of smoke, as you see on your screens, which actually tells you a very tragic story of what unfolded this morning. 53 British, 7 Portuguese and 1 Canadian national. This was AI-171 flight which crashed in Ahmedabad. It crashed into the very well BJ Medical College and Hospital. Prime Minister Modi has sent his condolences. He says, "I'm stunned by what has happened there." Crash happened after reaching 625 feet altitude and at the speed of 174 knots. A Mayday call apparently was given from the flight, and the ATC tried reacting, but after that they lost all contact with the aircraft. On your screens, for those who've just joined us, we're bringing you a rolling coverage of the crash in Ahmedabad. On your screens right now, rescue operations and rehabilitation operations in full swing. You see that smoke's billowing up. There are people who are helping out. You can hear the sirens of ambulances. Most of those who've been injured have been taken to the Ahmedabad Civil Hospital. Debris on the floor. You can still see small fires which are there even as rescue operations are in full swing. Right after the crash, 3 teams, more than actually 3 teams of firefighters had reached the site of the crash. You can see police officials as well as others who've reached the spot, and like I said, full swing. They are trying to do what is best at this time of tragedy. 53 British, 7 Portuguese and 1 Canadian. Ambulance being given the way. Other visuals on your screens as well of buildings being damaged, considering that the crash happened. There it is. Those are the visuals that we are getting, the latest visuals. Because the crash apparently happened in a residential colony, perhaps a lot more buildings have been damaged as a result of the crash this morning. You can see buildings being damaged. This was an Ahmedabad London Gatwick flight which crashed this morning. A very tough call for rescue and rehabilitation officials, but they are doing their level best. Right in the morning, around 3 to 6 teams of firefighters had reached the site of the crash, and they began rescue operations trying to extinguish the fire which was caught because of the crash, considering that it was full up so far as the fuel was concerned. Also, former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Vijay Rupani, was amongst the passengers on the flight. His flight ticket listed him as a passenger on seat 2D. Those are the visuals on your screen right now. Lots of buildings that you see on your screens. This was, some of them are heavily damaged, and I think they are being examined right now by officials as to what kind of rehabilitation and rescue can be done, or whether there is any further damage as an aftermath of the crash which took place on the Ahmedabad-London flight. This was the 787 Dreamliner. The flight apparently had 242 people on board. That is what we are learning. And the pilot apparently gave a Mayday call after takeoff to air traffic control, which is ATC, moments before it crashed outside the airport perimeter. This flight was Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, which included 230 passengers and 12 crew members as well. Live visuals on your screen of damaged building for those who have joined us right now. Those are the visuals. It is difficult to ascertain right now these buildings, whether they are within the perimeter of the airport or close to the residential areas near the airport. Those, look at that smoke which was billowing up. Most of it you can see completely dark and black because of the smoke which emanated after the crash, and also the fires still need to be extinguished, or perhaps they have been extinguished. This is the residual after the fires have been extinguished. You can see firefighters in full swing trying to extinguish and douse the fire in the buildings which caught fire in the aftermath of the crash. Buildings almost totally damaged, with just a facade of the buildings which remain standing. These are some of the inside shots of the buildings as well, you see on your screens. Lot of people around. I'm guessing these are rescue and rehabilitation workers who are trying their level best to douse the fire so that there is no more danger in the aftermath of the crash. On your screen right now, let me now go across to my colleague Karthik Malhotra on the latest. Karthik, it's such a big tragedy that it would be very unfair to apportion blame right now. But if you had to take the viewers through as to what may have happened, considering the crash happened just minutes after the takeoff, whether it was the problem of altitude or whether it was the failing of both the engines, Karthik Malhotra, which may have caused this tragedy. Karthik.
Hi, Sudha. Right. So I think at this moment, whatever we say is going to partly be in the realm of speculation and partly in the realm of educated guess, or what we are hearing from experts in the field who may be venturing their own guesses at the moment. But a plausible theory here, Sudha, seems to be the fact that it is a case where both the engines lost power. Now, let's go back into what we know for sure and juxtapose it with what potentially could have taken place in those horrific few minutes that led from the time the aircraft took off to the time it eventually crashed on the ground. So we know for a fact this was AI 171 scheduled to go to London from the Ahmedabad airport. It had 242 souls on board. This included 230 passengers, out of which there were 169 Indians and the balance from other nationalities, including a large chunk being Britain, followed by Portugal and Canadian residents. I think just one Canadian citizen. So that is what we know. It was flight 171. It was scheduled to depart at 1:09 p.m. There was some delay. Finally, the aircraft left ground at 1:39 p.m. So it did take off. Now, the fact that it took off means that during the initial checks, there was nothing that was reported which seemed untoward to prevent the aircraft from taking off. This is the exact same aircraft which incidentally flew from Delhi to Ahmedabad before being routed for its regular operations to London. So there was no problem reported, theoretically at least, till the time the aircraft landed in Ahmedabad. The aircraft was then checked and turned around and made ready for its onward journey to London. Now, at the time of takeoff, if there is any issue that the pilots feel is not right with the aircraft, with the engine, with the hydraulics, with the avionics, there's a time until when the takeoff can be aborted. The takeoff was not aborted, which means by the time the aircraft lifted off from the ground, it's called unsticking the aircraft. By the time the aircraft was unstuck, there was no problem reported. Now, there's a very short window of time, Sudha, from the time the aircraft leaves ground and reaches a very low altitude of 625 feet. That is the peak altitude that the aircraft climbed to. 625 feet is nothing. I mean, you know, it's 100 people of 6 feet each standing on top of each other. It's a small, it's a very low altitude. So obviously something has happened in that short duration, due to which at a peak of 625 feet, a Mayday call is made and the aircraft starts coming down. Now, what could have potentially happened in those few seconds, perhaps, you know, barely a few minutes, is perhaps the engines, both the engines on the 787 Dreamliner have flamed out. Now, both engines, remember it's a two-engine aircraft, Sudha, and these aircraft are designed to at least be able to land safely with just one engine. The second engine, while you require both the engines to take off, because that's the kind of thrust you require and that's the kind of energy that you need to expend to be able to lift off against gravity and go into the sky. But thereafter, once the aircraft is in the sky, a single engine theoretically can be enough to ensure that the aircraft comes down safely. The pilots are able to maneuver it, guide it to an area which is conducive for landing, may not be optimal for landing, but it is conducive for landing, and bring the aircraft down safely. Now, the fact that the pilots were unable to do that tells us that perhaps both the engines have shown some snag, have not responded to the desires, to the commands of the pilots, and worst case scenario, perhaps both the engines have flamed out. Now, there are a few reasons why this could happen. So the one reason which many experts who came on our channel, in the last few hours that we've been on this story, have said that perhaps the fuel supply to the engine. Now, I spoke to a few pilot friends of mine who have confirmed to me that that seems like a highly improbable event, because there are two fuel tankers under both the wings of the aircraft supplying fuel individually to both the engines. So the probability of both the supplies to both the engines getting cut off at the same time seems highly improbable, if not impossible. Now, what seems to be another reason why both the engines could have flamed out, and this is something that a few pilots that I've spoken to, and one of them in particular, tells me with a great deal of certainty, is that perhaps it has been a case of simultaneous bird strikes. Now, bird strikes again seem to be an improbable event, that two bird strikes in both the engines simultaneously, but it's not something that hasn't happened before. In fact, it has happened plenty of times before. If you recall, so the movie called Sully, which is based on the real life experience of Captain Sully, who was able to successfully land his aircraft down in the Hudson River, was a case of two engines flaming out together. So two engines flaming out together has happened. Now, why this pilot I spoke to is insisting on the probability of both the engines having been hit by birds is because presumably the area around Ahmedabad is full of butchers and butcheries, and these butcheries become the breeding ground and the hunting ground for birds who are there to look for food. So the birds from the sky descend to those butcheries and they feed on the remains of whatever the butchers sell to us, and thereafter they are doing a low orbit sort of circuit somewhere near the airport, and hence Ahmedabad statistically has the second highest number of bird hits reported in across all the airports in India. Incidentally, the highest number of bird strikes have happened in Delhi NCR, but after Delhi NCR it is Ahmedabad airport which is the second highest when it comes to bird strikes. So the pilot I've spoken to has flown in that sector and has told me that it definitely seems to be a case where two birds have been sucked into the engines. Now, I countered that by asking the pilot that we see in the visuals which are playing on a screen right now, that the aircraft, when it is trying to come down just moments after taking off, there seems to be no fire, there seems to be no physical damage, structural damage to the aircraft. So how can we assume it's a case of bird strike? And his reasoning to that is that it's not necessary that every time a bird gets sucked into the engine, it comes out of the backside of the engine causing fire. Perhaps it is just strong enough at the time of takeoff to obstruct the turbines of the engines from, from turning. And that could be the reason why both the engines could have potentially flamed out at the same time. Now, there was enough inertia, enough momentum in the aircraft already that immediately after the bird strike, it was able to fly to that altitude of 625. But beyond that, there is absolutely no way that the pilots were able to control the aircraft. The best they could have done was hydraulically, if the hydraulics were working, to level the wings as you're seeing in the visuals again and try and bring the aircraft down. Now, again, as you're seeing on the visuals which are on the screen right now and for our viewers, at this moment when the camera has zoomed in, you're saying that the pitch of the nose of the aircraft, initially the angle of attack is downward. The undercarriage is down, the wheels are down. It means the aircraft wants to come and land somewhere. But just moments before, as the camera zooms in just now, you see that the nose is pitched upwards. So as the nose is pitched upwards, that means the pilots have seen that there is an obstruction, there is a building, they want to avoid that building. They try their level best to somehow get the nose of the aircraft up to avoid hitting that building, but there is no power in the engine and the aircraft does not respond. Right. So the pitch of the aircraft is that the nose is up, but the aircraft is going down, suggesting fairly clearly that the engines have flamed out.
Kartik Malhotra, do stay in with us. We also have two guests, Group Captain Uttam Kumar Devnath, who's an aviation expert, and Captain Sham Kumar, who's also an aviation expert. But gentlemen, do wait on, because my colleague Neeru has this report from Ahmedabad Civil Hospital. Let's take a look.
लेकिन यहाँ पर फिलहाल मैं सिविल हॉस्पिटल में मौजूद हूँ, जो ट्रॉमा सेंटर भी है, और यहाँ पर किस तरह की स्थिति है वो मैं आपको बता देती हूँ। आप जिस तरह से देख रहे हैं, काफी अफरा तफरी का माहौल है, लोगों में डर है, लोग सहमे हुए हैं, क्योंकि कई ऐसे लोग हैं जिनके परिवार के लोग, जिनके मित्र इस विमान में सफर कर रहे थे। ऐसे लोग अपने परिजनों से मिलने के लिए हॉस्पिटल आए हैं। और सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको बता दूं कि ये जो हॉस्पिटल है, सिविल हॉस्पिटल, यहाँ से कुछ ही मीटर की दूरी पर सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट है, जहां पर ये भयानक हादसा हुआ है। गुजरात के इतिहास में अब तक का ये सबसे बड़ा हादसा मैं आपको बता दूं। और पीछे जिस तरह से आप भीड़ देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर, कि उनके जितने भी रिलेटिव्स हैं, जो पैसेंजर्स इस विमान में सवार थे, उनके जितने भी रिलेटिव्स हैं, वो सारे इस वक्त कैंटीन में मौजूद है। और यहाँ पर जो स्टाफ है हॉस्पिटल के, उन्होंने इस तरह की यहाँ पर उनके लिए व्यवस्था करके रखी है कि जितने भी परिजन आए हुए हैं, उनको कैंटीन में एक जगह बैठने की और शांति रखने की सुविधा यहाँ पर दी गई है। काफी घंटों से यहाँ पर हम देख रहे हैं एम्बुलेंस भर भर कर यहाँ पर कैजुअल्टीज को लाया जा रहा है। अब तक जो ऑफिशियल फिगर दिए गए हैं, उसके हिसाब से 50 से ज्यादा लोगों की मौत की आशंका जताई जा रही है और 100 से ज्यादा लोग गंभीर रूप से घायल हुए हैं। लेकिन मैं आपको बता दूं कि जिस तरह की स्थिति, जिस तरह का क्रैश यहाँ पर हुआ था, उसको देखकर ये अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता है कि ये आंकड़ा बढ़ने का जो है वो आशंका अभी जताई जा रही है। फिलहाल ये जो सिविल हॉस्पिटल आप देख रहे हैं, यहाँ पर काफी भीड़ देखी जा रही है।
All right, we're getting some breaking news. Home Minister Amit Shah leaves from Delhi for Ahmedabad. That is the breaking news that we are getting. He is headed towards Ahmedabad, where the crash took place. This was an Ahmedabad London-bound flight. Home Minister Amit Shah has left from Delhi. He'd already taken the status of what was really going on, but now physically Home Minister Amit Shah is going to be in Ahmedabad in a couple of hours from now. He's left from Delhi. For those who've just joined us, the latest on the Ahmedabad London flight crash this morning in Ahmedabad is that Home Minister Amit Shah has left from Delhi for Ahmedabad. He had already, like I said earlier, taken the status of what really went on, took all the details, and now he is Ahmedabad bound. Home Minister Amit Shah has left for Ahmedabad. Let me now go across to the guests. Group Captain Uttam Kumar Devnath and also Captain Sham Kumar, who's an aviation expert. A very, very warm welcome to both of you. What a tragedy it is, Group Captain Devnath, today for the entire country and also across the world. We're getting a lot of, condolences and, nations commiserating with us. what really unfolded this morning, a tragedy in Ahmedabad. I want to ask you, Group Captain Devnath, my colleague Kartik Malhotra very succinctly explained as to what may have happened, although he did add a rider that it's all in the realm of speculation. But, sorry, Captain Devnath, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, Baba, I can hear you.
So tell me something, it takes off and then it reaches an altitude of 625 and then you see that, which is not really too much, like my colleague was explaining. Both the engines you have flamed. What do you think may happen? Because all the checks and balances, due diligence must have happened. But what do you think? Bird hits, two bird hits, because Kartik Malhotra, my colleague, was saying that considering it's very close to the abattoirs in Ahmedabad, it could be very, very a possibility that there were birds which actually, feed on the remnants of what the abattoirs offer, that it could have hit both the engines. Group Captain Uttam Kumar Devnath, over to you.
Yes, very, very tragic accident. What Kartik was saying is a very, very high probability. Ahmedabad has got large number of uncontrolled abattoirs where animal waste is thrown out in an uncontrolled, untreated manner. Though a local municipality has tried their best for last some years, either to close them down or at least to ensure that they throw away their leftovers in a scientific manner, that is not happening. The very fact the aircraft reached a height of 625 feet shows that till that moment, till some critical point, both the engines were working normally. The pilot, before a certain time period, then he makes a mayday call. Definitely a pilot making a mayday call means something has happened in last 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. What could have gone wrong? It is quite possible that a bird hit has taken place. Ahmedabad and some other airfields in India also are very, very bird hit prone. What normally happens that the bird hits a part of aircraft which is not very critical. Say it hits the body of the aircraft, it hits some non-critical part of the plane, wings, rudders, or a non-critical part of the vertical stabilizer. Now, in this case, it appears that the bird has gone into the engine. Ahmedabad, if you look around, you'll at any time of the day, especially during hot afternoons, these birds, they soar up to a height of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 feet. Vultures and such like birds, they weigh quite a bit. They weigh about 2.5 kg to 3.5 kg sometimes. And each vulture, if ingested into the engine, is capable of causing severe damage. Two vultures or two birds getting sucked into both the engines simultaneously, that is a very, very rare eventuality. But it appears that today something like this has happened, that both the engines have lost power simultaneously.
Group Captain Devnath, you make a very intriguing point, and I would like to go to Captain Shyam Kumar, who's also joined us, who's an aviation expert. Birds getting sucked into the engine. Captain Shyam Kumar, for lame people like me, that seems like an improbability or something which is really very surprising. All right, we seem to have lost contact with Captain Shyam Kumar. So let me go back to you, or rather come to you. Group Captain Devnath, please explain and decode what does it mean when these so-called, birds which are there hovering around because of abattoirs, they get sucked into the engines.
Yes, you see what happens, the probability of one lone bird it hitting an aircraft is very, very low. But in this month, May, June, July, during summer months, you will find not 1, 2, 10. Sometimes there are flocks of birds which are hovering around with the number of birds in each flock exceeding 100, sometimes 200. And they fly in close vicinity of each other. If the pilot is lucky, if the passengers are lucky, then birds may hit the aircraft, but they may hit the body of the aircraft. But in this instance, it appears that the bird has hit the engine. Now, once a bird goes inside the engine, Normally we use the terminology suck in because see, any jet engine, it sucks in air from the front, burns it, and then it pushes out air, hot gases from the rear. So suppose one bird gets ingested into the engine, it damages the compressor blades. There are stator blades which are static. There are rotor blades which are rotating at very high RPM. So this bird, when it goes inside, it ruptures those rotating parts of the engine. And if it is a big bird, then it does cause sufficient damage so that the engine stops functioning. I'll give you an example. If it is a small bird weighing just about 500 gram or 1 kg, then the engine may survive through this impact and still continue to generate some residual thrust. In that case, the pilot comes to know that his RPM has fallen. Then he takes permission from ATC quickly and declares a pan or Mayday call and comes back and lands. But in this instance, it appears that both the birds were huge, maybe weighing 3.5 kg each. And when they went inside the engine, they caused so much damage that the engine stopped producing adequate thrust to keep the aircraft in a level flight.
All right,
Yes.
Group Captain, do stay with us, and thank you so much for decoding this for us. But my colleague Samya Kapoor has also joined us from the newsroom. Samya, considering that the plane crash happened in and around residential colony, what is it that you're picking up on the ground? I mean, what do we know so far? We played a lot of visuals, and of course the BJ Medical College, which is one of the best and very well-known hospitals and also colleges in Ahmedabad, that seems to have been impacted. But other than that, I'm getting a lot of queries. Considering the crash happened, like I said, in and around a residential colony, what is the the quantum of damage that we are getting to know, or do we even know as of now, considering most of it is in the realm of speculation? Samya.
But as far as this tragic crash is concerned, the first alarm was raised around 1:39 to 1:40 p.m. this afternoon. But as I speak to you around 5:30 right now, it's still early to ascertain the extent of the damage or the number of deaths and casualties reported, both from the plane air crash and also from the crash that took place at that particular BJ Medical Hospital. Now, what we are given to understand is that the plane crashed into the dining area where there were several students seated already. Many of them were rescued. They managed to run away, but some may have been feared trap as well. We did have a number of 20 deaths that were reported from the BJ Medical Hospital, but we will have to wait for the official confirmation that will be issued by the state government. Having said that, like you mentioned, there are several visuals that are coming in right now, which only goes on to confirm that all efforts are being made to ensure that rescue operations are on a quick pace right now, with the government from the center and from the state, all of them rushing to the crash site to ensure that there's no, stone left unturned. If that is at all any areas of concern pertaining to rescue operations, if there are any way by which they can rescue the trapped students from the BJ Medical Hospital, that can also be done in the process. But what we can tell you right now is that several people from across the world reacting to this tragic Ahmedabad, London air crash that took place in Ahmedabad. Right now we do have a tweet coming in from Anthony Albanese, where he has also put out a statement saying that the news of the passenger plane crash in Ahmedabad is absolutely devastating. In this time of tragedy, Australia's thoughts are with everyone affected. Our government is receiving regular updates, and we will continue to monitor the situation today closely. Now, there are several questions being raised about the safety of the Boeing as well, whether this was the first ever air crash that took place. But what information we're getting to you right now is very pertinent, is that this is not the first technical error of the Air India 7878 Dreamliner. In the last few days, on 7th June, AI-143 from Delhi to Paris had landed at Sharjah due to electrical error, and burning smell was also being felt in the cabin. It was due to the excellent judgment of the pilot that they managed to safely return to Delhi after initial repair. There have been issues that has occurred time and again.
Though the Boeing had maintained that the flights, the aircrafts were fit to fly, but there were concerns, there were areas of errors that were noted not only by the crew members but also by the passengers. There are testimonies
Sorry
of the
to
passengers.
interject in this fashion, but we have a sound bite from Randhir Jaiswal, spokesperson for the MEA. Let's listen into him and then I get back to this debate.
So Ayushi, first your question. What has happened in Ahmedabad is a very tragic accident. We have lost a lot of people. We extend our deepest condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones. There are, I understand, several foreigners also. Those updates you will receive from the relevant departments, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Air India and others. They are putting out something, I guess, soon. That's the latest that I can share. You know, we also, it's still an evolving situation. Rescue operations are on, so you'll have to wait a little more time for exact details to be put out. But you would have seen, you know, that everybody is concerned, and we once again convey our deepest condolences to all the families who have lost their loved ones.
एयर इंडिया का AI-171 जो अहमदाबाद से लंदन जाने वाला जो फ्लाइट था वो क्रैश हो गया है। उसमें कुल 242 लोग थे, 230 पैसेंजर थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो वहां पे अभी सब राहत का कार्य शुरू है, बचाव का कार्य वहां पे शुरू है। हमारे मिनिस्ट्री में भी अभी हमने एक वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों की एक बैठक भी करी है। माननीय देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई और हमारे मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू जी वहां पे पहुंच रहे। मैं भी यहां से अभी निकल रहा हूं। तो अभी जांच तो शुरू है, वरिष्ठ लेवल पे हमारी मीटिंग भी अभी यहाँ पे हुई है। उसमें हमारे सेक्रेटरी थे, डीजीसीए थे। तो एक्चुअली उसमें रीजन क्या है, कितनी कैजुअलिटीज है, और वहां पे अभी इमरजेंसी में जो बचाव राहत का कार्य चल रहा है उस पर चर्चा हुई है। अभी किसी बात पर बोलना, यानी कि कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, क्या हुआ है, तो उस पर थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा। पहला मुझे लगता है कि प्रायोरिटी हमारी यही है कि जो वहां पे लोग फंसे हैं, जो लोग अभी वहां पे इंजर्ड है, उनको बाहर निकालना है, उनको इमरजेंसी में मदद करना है। तो इसीलिए हमारी टीम अभी जुड़ी है, हम वहां पे पहुंच रहे हैं।
Right now on your screens, those are fresh visuals. We are live as of now on News 9 with the details of the horrific air disaster in Ahmedabad. A London-bound Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner carrying 230 passengers and 12 crew members crashed into a medical college hostel minutes after taking off from the Ahmedabad airport this afternoon. Visuals on your screen of the tragedy which unfolded this afternoon in a London-bound flight from Ahmedabad to London. Visuals captured on mobile cameras show the aircraft losing altitude rapidly and crashing in a ball of fire, and you see an inferno actually. There were 169 Indians on board, 53 British, 1 Canadian and 7 Portuguese on board the Air India flight AI-171 from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick. Plumes of thick black smoke spiraled up in the air soon after, and ambulances and firefighting teams raced to the spot. Let me also tell you that most of those who were injured were rushed to the Ahmedabad Civil Hospital, where News 9 team is present. Let me now go across to Yash Bhavnani, who is an eyewitness to the entire tragedy which unfolded this afternoon so far as the flight is concerned, which was Ahmedabad London bound. Yash, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? Can you hear me?
हाँ जी आ रही है।
बताइए क्या कुछ आपने देखा आज दोपहर को जो ये हुआ, उससे पहले कहाँ थे आप यश?
मैं एक्चुअली तब तो घर ही था जब ये सब इंसिडेंट हुआ था, और फिर जब न्यूज पे मैंने सुना, अपने दोस्तों से सुना, उसके बाद मैंने रिएक्ट किया कि मैं आसपास से, क्योंकि मेरे घर के बहुत ही नजदीक है ये जो इंसिडेंट हुआ है एयरपोर्ट के, तो एक्चुअली फिर उसके बाद हम लोग ने सोचा कि हम लोग यहाँ पर हम फ्रेंड्स थोड़े से हेल्प करने आएंगे। तो मैं सिविल हॉस्पिटल के बाहर ही खड़ा हूँ अभी, और बहुत सारी एम्बुलेंस अभी हाल फिलहाल अंदर जा रही है, और बहुत सारे एयर भीड़ यहाँ पर इकट्ठी हो गई है। RAF की टीम भी यहाँ पर मौजूद है जो हेल्प में यहाँ पर खड़ी हुई है।
काफी सायरन्स की आवाज सुनाई दे रही। यश, बताइए, आपके घर के पास ये हादसा हुआ, तब आप बताइए कि आपको कुछ दिखा? आपके जो नेबर्स हैं, पड़ोसी हैं, उन्होंने क्या देखा कि धुआं ऊपर उठ रहा है आसमान की तरफ? कुछ आवाजें हुई होंगी, बड़ी तेज आवाजें वगैरह, इसके बारे में कुछ बताइए यश भवनानी।
नहीं, आवाज तो नहीं आई थी, लेकिन बहुत सारा धुआं जरूर था। यहाँ हमने देखा था हमारे टेरेस से, वहां पर देखने जा रहा, क्योंकि तो नजदीक है, तो हमने ये चीज तो देखी थी कि धुआं ऊपर उठा हुआ है। उसके बाद जब न्यूज में देखा तो उसके बाद पता चला था कि इतना बड़ा हादसा हो गया।
जी यश, ये बताइए कि ये भी कहा जा रहा है कि जैसे हादसा हुआ वहां फायर फाइटर्स तुरंत पहुंच गए, 3 से 6 टीमें। आपने देखा उन्हें? यश, उनके बारे में बताइए।
हाँ जी, उनकी सारी टीमें भी आ चुकी है, और क्या बोलते हैं, ये जो फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर्स की टीमें थी यहाँ पर, RAF और आर्मी टीम भी यहाँ पर मौजूद है, जिससे सबको हेल्प मिल सके। बड़ौदा से भी सारे फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर की 6 टीम्स यहाँ पर मौजूद है, जिसकी वजह से यहाँ पर राहत की महसूस हो रही है लोगों को। और लोगों में इतना जो अफरा तफरी थी, वो उसके कारण जहाँ पर हमें पहुंचना था, जहाँ पर हमें एग्जैक्ट लोकेशन थी, वहां पर जाने नहीं दिया जा रहा है। एग्जैक्टली आर्मी वहां पर अंदर एंटर नहीं होने देने जा रही है।
जी यश, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका कि आप हमारे साथ जुड़े। दैट वाज यश भवनानी, एन आई विटनेस, एंड द ट्रेजेडी अनफोल्डेड वेरी क्लोज टू हिज होम, एंड राइट नाउ ही इज एट in front of the Ahmedabad Civil Hospital trying to help those who may have been injured. Let me now go back to Group Captain Uttam Kumar Devnath, who's an aviation expert. I want to ask you, Group Captain Devnath, that considering the 2 engines would have been full of fuel, I mean, one can only horrifically imagine the level of the inferno which may have gone up from the floor upwards towards the sky. Tell us a little bit of that, considering you have such vast experience, Group Captain.
Yes, it is very, very sad thing to narrate, but since we all have undergone certain amount of training in this regard, see what happens. Exact details will come out once the black box is recovered. That will give the exact engine parameters, the speed, height of the aircraft, rate of descent, forward velocity, and exactly what appears here. What we can see that aircraft has impacted the ground in a high nose-up attitude. And one thing which is very clear from the video is that the tail portion got stuck in a high-rise building. And then the aircraft front portion went ahead and hit the ground and caught fire. Normally, when aviation turbine fuel burns, the temperature, as which we can see here, black smoke, temperature goes up to 550 degrees centigrade it can attain while burning like this. In addition, what happens that the other inflammable material like plastics or chemicals on board, they also catch fire. In extreme cases, sometimes even the aluminum part starts burning, like we have seen metal burning inside Diwali crackers or Diwali fuljaris. In that case, the temperature goes beyond 1000 up to 1400 degrees centigrade. It is very, very sad thing to see. I hope that the cockpit voice recorder, which records the exchange of sound bites between captain of the aircraft and the co-pilot, is recovered, and that this extreme heat has not caused any damage to the black box or black box. I must tell viewers that it is a digital flight data recorder. It is designed in a manner to withstand all these high temperatures. Similarly, if CVR is recovered, that will give an idea about what were the voice commands being exchanged between captain and the co-pilot at that time. Another indication will be the pilot was in contact with air traffic control. All ATCs have long recording tape recorders. Which
I wanted to ask you about that, Yeah, I wanted to, I'm sorry to interject, but I wanted to ask you that, Group Captain Devnath, is that apparently the pilot gave a Mayday call, and the ATC, when it tried to kind of contact the aircraft, there was no response. I mean, that radio silence is very eerie. Is very eerie, Group Captain Devnath. I don't know what must have happened that after giving a Mayday call, which is given under a lot of distress, Mayday, which actually means help me, correct me if I'm wrong. After getting that, the ATC just could not get back in touch with the pilot, as it were.
You see, the purpose of we all pilots are trained right in there during their initial training itself, when they are student pilots, that in case there is any emergency, onboard emergency, or aircraft is in distress, then they are supposed to make this call. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday on that particular channel. Say this, if this channel is channel 1, what happens that after that air traffic control is supposed to the controller is supposed to concentrate all his mind on this particular aircraft, and it is also an indication for all the other pilots in the vicinity of the aerodrome to keep quiet, so that air traffic control can pass instructions to that aircraft. Now, when a Mayday call is made, in this case, we can see by the time the pilot made the Mayday call, now he is immediately engrossed with how to recover the aircraft or how to extinguish the fire. So probably bird hit has taken place. He knows that he has to go and make impact with the ground. We can see the undercarriage of the aircraft down. That is selected down many times by the pilot. They are trained to do so when they feel that the aircraft may impact the ground. The undercarriage is lowered so that the initial part of the impact is absorbed by the undercarriage. But what happens, this was an act emergency. So probably immediately after making the Mayday call, their entire attention was how to revive the engine. There is a procedure by which if the engine is winding down, this is the slang we use. If there is a bird hit, obviously the engine from 100% RPM will fall to 90% RPM, 70% RPM, 60% RPM, and very low RPM. So pilot was probably busy trying to restart the engine.
Right.
Though there is no time available here to restart the engine, he had to just go and plonk the aircraft on whichever clear patch he could find in those few seconds.
All right.
Yes.
And also my colleague Samya Kapoor is still there with us, reporting speaking to us from the newsroom. Samya, you were talking about, when I interjected you and we were getting breaking news about Home Minister Amit Shah, that this isn't the first time. In the recent past, there was one electrical error which was also reported on a flight bound from Delhi to Paris.
Well, absolutely, and this is exactly the information we're bringing over here. It's important, it's pertinent to note over here that Boeing has been facing difficulty, has been facing operational issues, which has turned out to be safety hazard in this particular case today. But I can take you back to that information that we were sharing with our viewers right now, is that this wasn't the first time around that this has happened. It was only in June that similar situation had been witnessed, and the flight had to be taken from Delhi to Paris, for that matter, where they had faced a technical snag and a burning smell, and the pilot had the presence of mind to take the decision at the right point in time. What we are waiting to see is that to find the exact cause of this crash, whether it was a bird hit, was it a case where the tail of the aircraft had hit against a tree. What exactly was the issue that led to this devastating plane crash? We will find out about all of that and several other inquiries, investigation already been ordered in this particular aircraft. We have to wait and see how we will be going further with this.
Yeah, I also want you to focus on, the thing is that as of now, from our various bureaus, considering that we have bureaus all over India, what is the vital information that we are gathering? Of course, our colleague Neeru is at the civil hospital, but other than that, if you have to break it down in 3 important points, Samya, what is it that the viewers should know right now, hours after the plane crash?
Well, like I told you, it was around 1:39 to 1:40 when the plane crash actually took place, and the rescue operations have been pressed upon right now. Those visuals are on our screens right now. It is at the crash site, also at the BJ Medical College Hospital hostel, where several students have feared dead. What the confirmation we can get you right now is that there were several people on board. There were 230 passengers, 10 crew members, and 2 pilots, and all of them have been feared dead. There are no survivors, is what we can tell you right now. Absolutely tragic episode. This is one of the most devastating air crashes that India has witnessed so far. Not only did the passengers not survive who were on board that particular aircraft going from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick, but even the students who were present at the BJ Medical College hostel, many of them have also been feared dead so far. We are bringing to you this particular exclusive information that we have just gotten, that there seems to be no survivors of those 242 passengers who were on board the 787 Dreamliner that crashed near the Ahmedabad airport.
What a tragedy that is, Samya Kapoor, who just was reporting from the newsroom. No survivors on the Ahmedabad Gatwick flight which crashed this afternoon in Ahmedabad. 242 feared dead, 169 Indian, 53 British, 1 Canadian and 7 Portuguese nationals. There you see on your screens right now Amit Shah, who's leaving for Ahmedabad after this great tragedy unfolded in Ahmedabad. 242 feared dead, one of the worst tragedies ever in the history of civil aviation in India. And also, like my colleague Samya Kapoor was reporting, she said that even as the plane crashed into the BG Medical Hospital and College, there also some students have been feared dead. According to Samya Kapoor, with an exclusive information that she was actually giving out to the viewers of News 9, these students were apparently in the dining room, perhaps waiting to eat their lunch. This was afternoon at around 1:30ish, and they have also been feared dead. Some locals have also been feared dead. Breaking news on your screens right now. No survivors in the plane crash. 242. There appears to be no survivors. City Police Commissioner is saying from Ahmedabad some locals may have also lost their lives in this tragedy. Exact casualties are being ascertained, but no survivors. That's for sure. Official confirmation coming from the top cop. Let me now go across to Samya Kapoor for more on this. Samya, what a great tragedy this is. This is devastating news coming now. We have it on the screen after you confirmed it for the viewers of News 9. No survivors in the plane crash, but I would like you to concentrate. 242, of course, passengers on board. A big tragedy. But what about those students who are perhaps getting ready to eat lunch at the BJ Medical College and Hostel? Samya Kapoor.
Well, that is a big breaking news that we are bringing to our viewers at this point in time, that there are no survivors of those 242 passengers who were on board. 230 passengers, of them 52 were British nationals as well. There were other foreign nationals present as well. There were infants, crew members, pilots, all of them perished in thin air. Those visuals that we are playing out on our screens right now, time and again, which shows how the flight, the aircraft went into flames, left very little to imagination when it came to whether there are going to be any survivors or not. Of course, the government has not revealed the real numbers so far, because they are also saying that there could be a case where several local residents who may have come in the way of this crash may have also lost their lives. So the final number of deaths, the casualties, that has not been revealed as yet by the government. They are still going through the process of ascertaining the extent of deaths and damage that has taken place because of the Ahmedabad-London air flight crash. What we can get to at this point in time is that unfortunate that the Ahmedabad-London Gatwick flight that the world is talking about. World leaders have taken to social media to express their concern, their condolences, and they stand with India in this hour of crisis. The Prime Minister has also put out a statement saying that all possible help will be rendered to the family members of those who are going through a terrible time right now. But what we can tell you is that the Home Minister has already rushed to Ahmedabad right now, where he is taking stock of all the developments that have taken place since the afternoon. He has spoken to the Chief Minister of Gujarat. He has also spoken to the DGP, the Home Minister. The NDRF, SDRF have also pressed in all their teams for the rescue operations to be carried out. Unfortunate again right now that I would like to underline is that the former Gujarat Chief Minister, Vijay Rupani, was also on board this particular flight, although their family members have not confirmed. But if we are to believe that 242 passengers have not survived, then unfortunate is that the former Chief Minister of Gujarat is no more. But we shall wait for the family to put forth that statement before we put that out. We had confirmed that he was a passenger number 12 on this fateful flight, and tragic as it is, all those 242 passengers have lost their life. No survivors there. That is the big breaking news that we're getting you at this point in time. World over.
What a tragedy this is. What a great tragedy this is. Devastating news coming in. And let me go to the group captain. Group captain, what a great tragedy. One of the worst tragedies ever in civil aviation, if one were to say, as it were. I want our reaction from you. You know, what seemed like that, you know, that both the engines apparently had failed, whether it's a bird hit. Of course, all that will be ascertained later, like you said, once we have the black box in possession and the readings on it. But as of now, the mourning, the nation as well as the world mourns the deaths of these 242 passengers on board the Ahmedabad-London air crash.
Yes, I had almost 34 years of experience in Indian Air Force, have seen many crashes, but this by and large, by far the biggest and most sad is the word. But see, we are trained to quickly recover and think about what to do now. Obviously, there are no survivors, it appears. It has been declared. So we move on to the next part of sad part of administration, which is rehabilitation of all the people around that area. It appears that sufficient, the large amount of damage has taken place on ground also. So anyone who is injured on ground, he will be taken to hospital by city and municipal administration to give first aid and other medical aid. The aviation authorities will definitely zero in now by tonight onto it is their job. You know, sometimes it looks that they are very people who don't show emotion. Especially the crash investigation board members have got no time to show their emotions. Their job is now absolutely cut out, that they have to go to the site, try and recover the digital flight recorder and cockpit voice recorder, and they will also go to the air traffic control to take possession of the tape recorder in which last minute exchange of voice communication has taken place. You see what happens, there are certain legal implications also. Human tragedy has taken place. So the Boeing company, they will also send their reps to India because their reputation is also at stake. Boeing will definitely like to know exactly what caused their Dreamliner aircraft accident like this. They will definitely land up in another 8 or 10 hours in India. And by as per IATA regulations, it is necessary that they are given protocol is that the OEM, the manufacturer of the plane, is given all the access to all the debris and other recording devices. Another big decision which DGCA will have to take by tonight, what to do with the remaining aircraft. Sometimes it appears that probably the accident took place because of some basic design fault. That does not appear to be the case in this case. But sometimes it may be so that it appears that the particular component had some design faults. In that case, the entire fleet is grounded for next 12 hours, 24 hours till the time each component on that particular component on the other aircraft are investigated. That is not the case in this case. Boeing 787 Dreamliner is a highly reliable aircraft. So DGCA also will have to ensure that all the people fatalities which have taken place, they are officially announced. Right now, what happens, whatever list is coming out, it is informal list, but legal implications state that DGCA must quickly come out with an official list of passengers. Large number of fatals have taken place. Many people will like to follow up tomorrow because their near and dear ones have gone. In my 34 years service in Indian Air Force, I have seen such accidents taking place at least 10 or
लाया गया है, जिन्हें श्रेष्ठ सारवार दी जा रही है। जो सगे हैं, नजदीक के सगे हैं, उनसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि डीएनए टेस्टिंग की व्यवस्था हम लोगों ने बीजे मेडिकल कॉलेज के कसौटी भवन में की है। आप सबसे अनुरोध है, जिसमें खास तौर पे माता पिता अथवा उनके पुत्र पुत्री नजदीक के सगाओं में होते हैं, आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप डीएनए सैंपल के लिए कसौटी भवन में बनी हुई व्यवस्था पर अपने सैंपल दें, ताकि दुर्घटना के जो विक्टिम है उनका आइडेंटिफिकेशन जल्दी से हो सके। प्लेन के जो मुसाफिर हैं, उनके रिलेटिव और बाकी जो इजा होके घायल होके सिविल हॉस्पिटल आए हैं, उनके सगे संबंधियों को अगर किसी भी तरह की पूछताछ करनी है, ज्यादा माहिती की जरूरत है, तो उसके लिए सिविल हॉस्पिटल अहमदाबाद ने 2 हेल्पलाइन नंबर शुरू किए हैं। एक नंबर है 63 57 37 38 31 एवं दूसरा नंबर है 63 57 37 38 41। इन 2 नंबर पे आप माहिती के लिए संपर्क कर सकते हैं। प्लेन के जो पैसेंजर थे, उनके सगे संबंधियों के लिए मेडिकल कॉलेज बिल्डिंग में मैं आपको इंग्लिश में, अगर आप में से चाहते हैं।
All right, so there you have information about DNA samples which have to be collected now, so that there can be identification of those who lost their lives in this terrible crash, which was bound to London from Ahmedabad. The tragedy which unfolded this afternoon, now it's been confirmed that 242 passengers on board this 787 Dreamliner are all feared dead, and also there have been some local deaths as well. And as you could see, an official was there speaking about how DNA samples will be collected, and it shall be made easy for those who are grieving, relatives and kin of those who have lost their relatives in these great tragedies. These are the live visuals, rescue and rehabilitation of ambulances and also bulldozers. There you see that how the debris now has to be cleared to see to it that the next steps are taken after this devastating tragedy. On the screen right now of rescue and rehabilitation, of course we have very tragic news. 242 people on board are feared dead, which also includes former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Vijay Rupani. And now the officials are saying that DNA collections will happen, the samples will be collected so that the identification of the deceased can be ascertained. A terrible tragedy. Let's listen in to MEA spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal's reaction on this terrible, devastating tragedy.
So, Ayushi, first your question. What has happened in Ahmedabad is a very tragic accident. We have lost a lot of people. We extend our deepest condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones. There are, I understand, several foreigners also. Those updates you will receive from the relevant departments, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Air India and others. They are putting out something, I guess, soon. That's the latest that I can share. We also, it's still an evolving situation. Rescue operations are on, so you'll have to wait a little more time for exact details to be put out. But you would have seen, that everybody is concerned, and we once again convey our deepest condolences to all the families who have lost their loved ones.
एयर इंडिया का AI 171 जो अहमदाबाद से लंदन जाने वाला जो फ्लाइट था वो क्रैश हो गया है। उसमें कुल 242 लोग थे, 230 पैसेंजर थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो वहां पे अभी सब राहत का कार्य शुरू है, बचाव का कार्य वहां पे शुरू है। हमारे मिनिस्ट्री में भी अभी हमने एक वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों की एक बैठक भी करी है। माननीय देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई और हमारे मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू जी वहां पे पहुंच रहे। मैं भी यहां से अभी निकल रहा हूं। तो अभी जांच तो शुरू है, वरिष्ठ लेवल पे हमारी मीटिंग भी अभी यहाँ पे हुई है। उसमें हमारे सेक्रेटरी थे, डीजीसीए थे। तो एक्चुअली उसमें रीजन क्या है, कितनी कैजुअलिटीज है, और वहां पे अभी इमरजेंसी में जो बचाव राहत का कार्य चल रहा है उस पर चर्चा हुई है। अभी किसी बात पर बोलना, यानी कि कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, क्या हुआ है, तो उस पर थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा। पहला मुझे लगता है कि प्रायोरिटी हमारी यही है कि जो वहां पे लोग फंसे हैं, जो लोग अभी बाहर निकालने तो मदद कर रहे हैं, तो उसीलिए हमारी टीम
And we live latest details on 142 people on board the aircraft are feared. No official word on it yet. The London-bound Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner, which was carrying 230 passengers and 12 crew members. It crashed into the Vijay Medical College hostel in Ahmedabad minutes after taking off from the Ahmedabad airport. Visuals on your screens are those which are captured by mobile cameras, which showed the aircraft losing altitude rapidly and crashing in a ball of fire. 169 Indians were on board, apart from 53 British nationals, 1 Canadian national and 7 Portuguese nationals as well. We have Samia Kapoor joining us from the newsroom with the latest. Samia, at this stage, we do know that rest crash.
News that we're bringing to our viewers at this point in time. This is the big breaking news. People were hoping against hope that there are going to be survivors, but like we are playing out those visuals on the screens which shows how the flight took off, and in a matter of minutes it blew into a huge ball of fire. It appears that all 242 passengers have perished. No survivors from that Ahmedabad to London Gatwick flight. Absolutely tragic, and that is not where the death toll ends. Unfortunately, the plane went and crashed into a medical college hostel, and the local administration is still trying to ascertain the number of deaths at that medical college hostel as well, because there were several students at the dining area who were feared trapped. There were reports of 20 students who have died as well. The final numbers are yet to be put forth by the government. They are going through the process of ascertaining facts. The rescue operations are in full swing. We are playing out all those visuals. Tragic, as several family members are right now coming to terms with the fact that those who boarded the flight from Ahmedabad for London have not survived. They are no more, and unfortunately it was the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Vijay Rupani, who was passenger number 12 on that particular flight. He too may not have survived, although we are waiting for the family to put forth a statement. But what we can tell you at this point in time is that the Home Minister, Amit Shah, has rushed to Ahmedabad right now. The Prime Minister has been constantly in touch with all the authorities and agencies who have been pressed upon for this particular rescue operations. NDRF team, SDRF team are all in action, and world leaders have also put forth a statement standing with India in this hour of grief and crisis. We've seen Keir Starmer to Anthony Albanese and several other leaders who have tweeted saying that they stand with India. There is the UK British High Commission who has put out a helpline number. There were 52 British nationals on board that particular flight. Out of the 242 passengers, remember, 230 were passengers alone, 10 were the crew members and 2 others were the pilots. That is the final numbers that we are telling our viewers right now. And amongst them were several foreign nationals, infant, women, all of them perished in thin air. Absolutely tragic. Tragedy that unfolded at the Ahmedabad airport today, minutes after the takeoff. We are yet to ascertain whether it's a case of a bird hit or a case of the aircraft tail that may have collided against a building or a tree while taking off. We do not exactly know. But this is not the first time around that we are hearing about areas of concern that were flagged as far as Boeing is concerned. We do have information that only in the last few days itself, where 7878 Dreamliner on 7th June from Delhi to Paris had landed in Sharjah due to an electrical error, where the pilot also came across some burning smell in the cabin. It was his presence of mind and quick thinking and the immediate decision that he took to land the flight safely at Sharjah instead. So there have been concerns surrounding Boeing. Of course, it's not been fatal, the manner in which we are witnessing today. Unfortunate, horrific tragedy over there that has unfolded. It has the entire nation and the world leaders standing with India and mourning the deaths of 242 passengers.
Samya Kapoor is joining us with the latest as we continue to bring you the latest pictures and the details as well. As you can see on your screens, it's the visuals of the family members who've reached the hospitals, family members who are fearing the worst, that they've lost their loved ones. Family members have been asked to reach hospitals and give their the DNA and give samples so that the DNA testing can be done to identify the deceased. Visuals now on the screens are of the BJ Medical College hostel building and the surrounding areas where the flight crashed. We have Captain Ehsan Khalid, aviation expert. We have Captain S.S. Panesar, aviation expert and ex-director flight safety, Indian Airlines, joining us. Let me first take this across to Captain Ehsan Khalid, aviation expert, who's with us. Captain Ehsan Khalid, right now we don't have a confirmation on what exactly caused this crash. Was it a bird hit? Was it a case of the tail of the aircraft, clashing against a tree or on its takeoff? But help us understand this. From the visuals and from the data, from the facts that we have, the flight upon takeoff, probably less than a minute, under takeoff, there was a problem. And that is the reason why, if you see the way it crashed, it had no altitude. It was just 625 feet in air, when the crash happened.
Yeah, very tragic accident and very difficult to say what exactly happened in the cockpit at that point of time. But we surely know that the pilot identified the problem and initiated a Mayday call. Mayday call is initiated when the pilot, in his wisdom, knows and understands that there is grave danger to the aircraft and occupant. That being said, the pilot was trying to thereafter continue with the flight. That means he was already past that point, the decision point that he could have discontinued the takeoff. I am not aware whether the Mayday call was given once the aircraft was airborne or when the aircraft was on ground. So coming back to the flight, that we see that it is losing height. That is a condition when the aircraft speed is not sufficient to sustain a flight. If you see, the pilot is actually pitching the nose up to keep the aircraft into flight state, which is not happening. The only reason for this is that the speed is less for that particular flight condition. Why the speed is less? Is it because of loss of engine failure, loss of engine power? Was the loss on both the engines? Was the loss on single engine power? Because this aircraft is designed to fly perfectly fine on a single engine power. So, in all probabilities, there was loss of power on both engines. Why the loss of power on both engines? It could be because of any technical issue, which is very, very, very unlikely and rare. But could it be because of burst ingestion on the both engines, like Captain Sully in Hudson River Bay? Both the engine power is lost. The landing gear is down. That indicates that fine, the aircraft has lost power on both the engines. That could be one reason. And the pilot is committed to go ahead and make a touchdown and reduce the kind of damage that would have happened with landing gear up. In my humble submission, it appears that there was a technical fault that was identified. What actions pilot took was that action as per the requirement of the phase of the flight. I have no idea to it. Because there is no aircraft, no pilot, no aircraft manufacturer who trains their pilot to counter both engine power loss. The second thing is that at a particular speed, if the flight configuration is not right, that means, let's say the aircraft is flying at 150 knots and it is supposed to have a flap of 5 degrees. And if it is not 5 degrees, then for the same speed, the aircraft is actually slow and it will not be able to maintain the flight. Looks to be very unlikely in this particular case because the pilot is totally in control of the aircraft and trying to control the aircraft and it is descending. I hate to say this, but looks like that the power on both the engines have been compromised. Reason of it will only be told when you have a digital flight data recorder and the CVR along with the ACARs and transcripts from the ATC is all merged together, taken to the lab, downloaded, analyzed. We will come to know as to what happened. In the meanwhile, condolence to everyone who have lost their near and dear ones on this. For the pilot community, it will keep baffling us because it is something which is totally unprecedented. We can't put things together as to what happened actually.
Why would you say that, Captain Ehsan Khalid? Captain Ehsan Khalid, why is it unprecedented? As far as the Boeing 787 Dreamliner itself is concerned, it's not an aircraft that's prone to crashes. It has a fairly solid record, isn't it?
Yeah, it is unprecedented. And for me as a pilot and instructor examiner on various types of aircraft, I am not able to guesstimate why the landing gear is down.
Captain Ehsan Khalid,
aircraft that has
is it a possibility that if this is a good aircraft, fundamentally speaking, but if it is an aircraft which wasn't maintained properly and was not in the best of conditions, and then that could have led to the technical glitch that led to this crash?
No, you see, what you're talking about is a matter of investigation. I am not able to put together why the landing gear is down. Landing gear for an aircraft that climbed to 625 feet should have been up. I don't see any visual where the landing gear is coming down after it was selected. And it is a very, 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 very baffling situation. Landing gear should have been up unless there is loss of both engine power. Then the pilot will just, it's like, they knew that there is no way that it's going to. They were probably trying to restart the engine or something. Landing gear being down is an indication that there was something that happened out of the book. It was not in the book. It was not something for which the pilot was trained for. And what was it? I don't know. But any pilot that you ask, take off, positive rate, gear up. Engine failure, positive rate, gear up. Engine fire, positive rate, gear up. Why will the gear be down? I don't know.
Okay.
And so it is a difficult scenario. There could be some mix up of even calls, etc. But part of investigation, and let's hope that this is something that we learn out of it, and something like this is never.
Stay with us. Stay with us. We also have former Aviation Minister Praful Patel speaking on the matter. Let's quickly listen in.
Such an accident has taken place. Our condolences to the victims and their families, and I pray, if I hope any survivors are there for their speedy recovery. Having said that, India's aviation sector is a very safe sector, being managed very well. Our DGCA and all other safety protocols are absolutely as good as anywhere else in the world. And so do the airlines also, like Air India, Indigo or other airlines also follow very good safety protocols. So I don't think there is any reason to worry about India's aviation sector. However, this accident, how and why it took place is a very, surprising thing, because the A787 Dreamliner is a very technically advanced aircraft. There are thousands of Dreamliners flying all over the world by many airlines, and there is no reason to doubt about the aircraft itself. Now, if the accident has taken place, only the black box will reveal what is the real reason why it went wrong. The captain did give a Mayday call, but we must also remember that the aircraft flew from Delhi to Ahmedabad. Obviously, there was no snag. Otherwise, the captain would not have decided to fly from Ahmedabad to London, which is a very long flight. And there is absolutely, no reason to even consider, because the pilot would have done pre-flight checks on flight check, and between the captain and the second in command, they do all the checks to ascertain whether the plane is flyworthy. So in this case, for a 9.5-hour flight, everything was in place. What went wrong, only an investigation can reveal.
Do you think there was a breach?
Right, now we have Captain S.S. Panesar, aviation expert, joining us. Captain S.S. Panesar, it is baffling, one and all, isn't it, as what exactly could have gone wrong? Can you tell us your first observations when you saw the footage, the way that aircraft crashed?
Well, let me tell you at the outset, we are sorry to know this crash. Very sad thing. Particularly the most modern aircraft, and the pilot announced the Mayday. That means the control of aircraft getting beyond his own control, beyond his own training facility, what he has gained it. That means something serious, either with the engines that failed, or we cannot anticipate right now, unless we get the digital flight data recorder reading or cockpit voice recording reading. Only then we can decide about the technical failure and all that. Pilot, when get airborne, he gets a positive rate of climb on the his vertical speed indicator to tell the aircraft is airborne. Then he takes the gear up. And gear going up and getting locked up, it takes few seconds. It is not that immediately put the lever on, the gear is up and all that. It takes time. And during that time, when the engine fails and all that, it becomes difficult for the aircraft to climb. And how was the loading done? We don't know. Sometimes the traffic people do overloading also. We don't know. That only investigation report. But I only wish they should have, at this the high time, they should have a judicial inquiry. The DGCA does not have expertise in investigating a high-tech aircraft technology. In the past, many incidents have happened where the reports are just made, they cover-up operation. If I tell you the report, you'll start laughing at those reports which they have done it. And they give 800 pages, 900 pages, useless pages, no proper investigation. This is the time, high time, we should have a judicial inquiry, involve all the professionals, because they do in-house inquiry, they don't invite the professional's opinion. In a judicial inquiry, any person can file an affidavit and give a statement. So it is time we should have inquiry to stop such recurrence. It's a very sad thing. They say it's a very, unfortunately, I don't know whether pilots are alive or not. If they are alive, they can also put some more impetus to the inquiry. Normally, DGCA, when the pilots die, they put the whole blame on the pilot, because he's not there to answer back. But the question is, now we have to go through but the technical detail. The digital flight data record more than 200 parameters of this aircraft. And then he must be carrying about 11 hours of fuel made more than 40,000 kgs, 40 tons. And to extinguish that fire in the public area, how much firefighting capability of the city there also has to be considered. But the very fact is known Mayday, that means the aircraft was going out of control from its own capability. I don't doubt the training of the pilot. They are trained for all emergencies. But that means this is something has happened beyond his control that he could not control it. In such case, only the pilot is issued Mayday signal. Normally, they don't give Mayday signal. So it is only we have to wait before we speculate and all that, put blame on any person. We have to see the performance of the engine, which is the main person to take the aircraft up. How was the behavior of the engine? But most of the pilots are critical. If they don't write the snag, they are scared of the management, they take action if you write a snag. I don't know why this is happening. Now only we have to wait for the investigation. Let it be on the NTSB board. Call the Boeing people. They will not invite them because they want to do a cover-up operation of the investigation. I'm sorry to say that, but it is high time. There are few incidents have taken place. And you could look at the Korean crash where he landed with the gear. He could have saved all the passengers, even the aircraft could have been saved. But the training matters also. But in our people, Air India, there's no doubt about the good training they do it. Indigo, they have very good training staff and all that. But this is something very unnatural happening. Engine failure on takeoff, both engine or single engine. I can tell you one thing, even both engine failure pilots have landed safely. Look at the incident at New York. He took a 320, both the engines shut down because of the bird hit. He landed on the river, saved all the passengers and the aircraft. You see, all incidents are avoidable, but some are difficult, some are easy. But now we have to see what all has actually happened. And once the Mayday signal is issued, that means it was beyond the control of the pilot to control the emergency. We have to just wait and see the investigation.
Okay. Captain S.S. Panesar, stay with us as we continue to bring the latest visuals of family members on your screens right now who have lost their loved ones in this tragic crash. Some outside the hospital, some at their homes, all grieving this sudden loss. We have my colleague Samia Kapoor continuing to be with us from the newsroom. Samia, talk to us. What's the latest that you are getting at this moment?
Well, like we have been telling our viewers, there have been 242 passengers on board that Ahmedabad London Gatwick flight, and none of them have survived. There are definitely visuals coming in from across India, where several of the family members are mourning the death of their loved ones, the crew members, the passengers, and also the pilots. Remember, there were several others who were present over there were foreign nationals. Many of them were British nationals. There are several helpline numbers that we are flashing on our screens right now. There have been helplines that are put forth by the Civil Aviation Ministry, the Air India, and the British High Commission. What we can tell you right now is that the authorities have decided to carry out a DNA test to ascertain the identity of the death, because it is going to be an uphill task for them to be able to give the dead body to the family members who have been waiting with bated breath since the afternoon to get a news of their passengers with their family members who were on board that particular flight. Unfortunate that all of them have perished in thin air is what we've been told by the police over there, although the government has to make an official announcement about the number of deaths and the casualties that have been reported in this particular case. Remember, it wasn't just the crash, there were several casualties, particular medical hospital hostel where several students were going for their meal, probably at lunch, is where the flight crashed into. There were of students having escaped and many of them were rescued, but also reports many, around 20 of them feared dead. We are waiting for the official data. We are repeating the fact that these data are all coming as per reports. The government is yet to issue official numbers, but absolutely tragic episode over there. The Home Minister has landed in Ahmedabad. He is in touch with the authorities and the Chief Minister. The DGP who had spoken to the Prime Minister has also got a hawk eye over this entire episode. So we are waiting to see whether at all the government is going to issue a statement by late this evening, because the family members from different parts of the country have decided to come to Ahmedabad to try and figure out how they can probably get their loved ones home. It looks a difficult task at hand for the agencies, because the manner in which the flight took off and we saw how it ran into a ball of fire, there's very little hope that there are going to be the dead bodies that can be given off to the family members. But the DNA test is what is being told by the authorities who are investigating this entire devastating crash.
Samya Kapoor there joining us with the latest from the newsroom. We have Captain Expert continue to be with us here on the broadcaster. Captain SS Panesar, at this stage, the question I have to ask you is this: both engines at this stage, we can come to a conclusion that both the engines had failed, and that is the reason why it was a matter of minutes from takeoff. Less than 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, a matter of 2-3 minutes within which this crash has happened. So that is for clear. What we don't know is that why those both the engines failed.
Well, I cannot give any reason for this, whether it's a maintenance problem or sometime bird hit problem. In New York, one aircraft took a 320, both the engine failed because the bird hits and all that. But he landed on the river bed and he saved all the passengers. Now we have to see whether both engines failed during takeoff. Aircraft, how much was overload? He must be having 10, 11 hours of fuel, more than 40 tons, which is a huge amount. And if it happened immediately after taking both engines failed, aircraft could not climb. And that's why it is correct. Now we have to only wait for the digital flight data recorder, which they call the black box, and a cockpit voice recorder. I am not sure whether the pilots are alive or not. If they are alive, they can give more inputs to the investigation.
Captain SS Panesar there continue to be with us. So let's now quickly listen to what the Minister of State for Aviation had to say.
एयर इंडिया का AI 171 जो अहमदाबाद से लंदन जाने वाला जो फ्लाइट था वो क्रैश हो गया है। उसमें कुल 242 लोग थे, 230 पैसेंजर थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो वहां पे अभी सब राहत का कार्य शुरू है, बचाव का कार्य वहां पे शुरू है। हमारे मिनिस्ट्री में भी अभी हमने एक वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों की एक बैठक भी करी है। माननीय देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई और हमारे मिनिस्टर राममोहन नायडू जी वहां पे पहुंच रहे। मैं भी यहां से अभी निकल रहा हूं। तो अभी जांच तो शुरू है, वरिष्ठ लेवल पे हमारी मीटिंग भी अभी यहाँ पे हुई है। उसमें हमारे सेक्रेटरी थे, डीजीसीए थे। तो एक्चुअली उसमें रीजन क्या है, कितनी कैजुअलिटीज है, और वहां पे अभी इमरजेंसी में जो बचाव राहत का कार्य चल रहा है उस पर चर्चा हुई है। अभी किसी बात पर बोलना, यानी कि कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, क्या हुआ है, तो उस पर थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा। पहला मुझे लगता है कि प्रायोरिटी हमारी यही है कि जो वहां पे लोग फंसे हैं, जो लोग अभी वहां पे इंजर्ड है, उनको बाहर निकालना है, उनको इमरजेंसी में मदद करना है। तो इसीलिए हमारी टीम अभी जुड़ी है, हम वहां पे पहुंचे।
Was the Minister of State for Aviation. We have Captain Ishan Khalid, aviation expert, with us on the broadcast. Captain Ishan Khalid, at this stage, what we don't know is what exactly caused both those engines to fail, but it looks like that is for now, even before any more fresh details could emerge and we can understand what exactly went on from the black box, that it is certainly a case of both engines failing. And yet there have been previous instances in history when both engines have failed and when pilots have still managed to make a safe landing. What tell us what is the reason why, despite both engines failing and there's a possibility of making a safe landing, this one could not make it?
Okay, once what you said that both engines failed is a hypothesis and most likely reason for this particular crash. When the both engine fails, then it is a call of destiny, because Captain Sully, when he lost both engines, by the providence he had Hudson River, which is almost like a sea, on which he could go ahead and land the aircraft. In this case, the aircraft would travel only this much of distance. It is not on the ability of the pilot to even travel 50 meters ahead of where the aircraft was destined to go. There is no aircraft, no manufacturer, no airline who can train the pilot for controlling the aircraft to a controlled landing after both engine fail. And such an event is so rare that it is very difficult to even call that this could have happened. Why this could have happened is because maybe you had a big flock of birds and they went and got ingested. How big that flock of birds should be, because a wide body aircraft, it's not Airbus 320, they are further 50 feet apart engines. But both engine loss is a situation, because in this aircraft that you see, the landing gear is down. Landing gear is down is not something that should have been there at this stage of flight. Aircraft gets airborne, and the first thing that the pilot does is take the landing gear out. In case of engine failure, positive rate, the first thing the pilot does is landing gear up. In case of engine fire, the first thing the pilot does is landing gear up. So here the landing gear is not up. That means there is something that has happened which is totally out of the book that the pilot wasn't trained for. And the landing gear is down only in very, very, very few conditions where you keep the landing gear down to minimize the impact of the ground. That means, did they know that they will impact the ground with whatever Mayday call that they had raised, is a question that I cannot answer now. Definitely, pilot were presented the data of failure, and that is why they gave a Mayday.
Right. Captain Ishan Khalid, stay with us. We have Captain S.S. Panesar also now joining us, and he wants to make a point. Captain S.S. Panesar, please go ahead. Captain S.S. Panesar. Right, we've just lost that line with him. We will try and reconnect with him. But in the meanwhile, we're bringing you the latest visuals, and we are getting you the latest expert take on what possibly went wrong in this air tragedy in Ahmedabad. The aircraft crashing after reaching an altitude of just 625 feet. We understand that 2 NDRF teams are on the site. And so far, police have said that there have been no survivors in this crash. But we also have details on those who were injured as well, because it crashed into the BJ College Medical Hostel. Let's now listen to what India's Ministry of External Affairs had to say.
So, Ayushi, first, your question. What has happened in Ahmedabad is a very tragic accident. We have lost a lot of people. We extend our deepest condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones. There are, I understand, several foreigners also. Those updates you will receive from the relevant departments, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Air India, and others. They are putting out something, I guess, soon. That's the latest that I can share. We also, it's still an evolving situation. Rescue operations are on, so you'll have to wait a little more time for exact details to be put out. But you would have seen, that everybody is concerned, and we once again convey our deepest condolences to all the families who have lost their loved ones.
Right now, let's take this back to Captain Ishan Khalid, the aviation expert, who continues to be with us here on the broadcast. Captain Ishan Khalid, you were telling us that both the key point to note here is that the landing gear was not up. And that is the one difference that takes place, because the landing gear is always up, no matter, irrespective of what the emergency is, what the situation is. And the fact that the landing gear was not up from the way the aircraft was crashed, and that is the main source of concern at this stage, isn't it?
That is correct. In most of the aircraft that I understand, I have flown multiple types of aircraft. Landing gear is left down only in circumstances like wind shear, when the aircraft is descending towards terrain. You don't touch it. And in this case, it is down. Nobody has told me that, they put it down. It was down all throughout. Now, why was it down? Was it because of both engine has failed and the pilot know that they're going to make an impact and so just lessen it by the landing gear extended? That could be one reason. Other could be, I'm not able to actually put these two things together. At this stage, the aircraft configuration should have been landing gear up and the flaps should have been deflected. Looking at the visual that I see, the flap deflection doesn't look to be very clear. Okay, so what it should have been was landing gear up and flaps deflected and the aircraft accelerating. So did both engine fail? Why did it fail? Was it bird hit? Was it bird hit on? It's so very rare to think about 787 hitting the birds on such a two wide spread engines, and they are very big engines. They can take most of the birds. If you see on your visual on the right where you are doing, you can see a lot of birds in the sky there. Even in your camera, I could see because if you go 5 seconds back from what you are showing me the live one, this building onto the left, you will see birds. The birds are a lot there. Did they cause and did they give a mayday call? Because if they would not have given a mayday call, I would have understood that it's a pilot, some kind of an error which they did not know. Here, they knew about it. Okay, so chances of pilot error is very remote because when you make a pilot error, you don't know what is happening. So in this case, they made a mayday call. Mayday call is identifying a situation that it is really difficult to counter, and the aircraft, as per the reports that we have, is at 625 feet with both engines or single engine. Single engine, this aircraft could have just continued flying. If the single engine was making the full power, it would not have come down the way it has come down. So it's very very unfortunate. Is it a condition out of the book that they could not solve? And under such circumstances, when you take off and you have habitat buildings on the takeoff leg, you don't have the luxury of Captain Surrey landing on the river bed.
Right.
Because he just it's not that you maneuver the aircraft, and if this happened at maybe 300, 400 feet, pilot does not have a time to go anywhere other than where the aircraft is going on its own.
All right. Stay with us. We have some fresh visuals coming in. Take a look at this video of the moment after the plane crashed at the BJ Medical College Hostel in Ahmedabad. Visuals on your screens are from the BJ Medical College Hostel moments after the crash. Those are the moments right after the crash. You can clearly hear people shrieking in panic at the BJ Medical College Hostel. We understand around 50 people have been injured on ground in this crash and they've been taken to the hospital for treatment. They are serious, but they remain stable. Those are the reports that we're getting at this stage, even as we understand that there might not be any survivors from the aircraft itself in this crash, because so far the reports say from the police at least say that there are no survivors. We have Captain Ishan Khalid continuing to stay with us and continue to help us understand this tragedy better as to what exactly could have led to this tragedy. Captain Ishan Khalid, at this stage, there has to be a deeper investigation into why something like this happened to ensure that something like this never happens again.
That is correct. There are set flight safety procedures. That is, right now, the first thing that you are seeing is search and rescue to save the life that can be saved. And thereafter, the flight safety team will take out the flight data recorder and the CVR, which we call black box, take it to the laboratory and take down all the details. once the data is downloaded, then we will analyze the entire flight path, the health of the engine, and was the engine producing the right power, and to the detail that what was the control deflected by the pilot. Okay, so all these things, something like 256 parameters plus. I think nowadays even 1400 plus parameters are recorded in
Right, Captain Ishan Khalid, stay with us. We're getting latest visuals of India's Civil Aviation Minister on ground at the crash site. Latest visuals are coming in from Ahmedabad. Even as the NDRF teams and others are busy with the relief operations, the Union Aviation Minister has landed on the site. Right. That's the on the screens of visuals of Union Minister for Civil Aviation Ram Mohan Naidu taking stock of the situation. We also understand that Union Home Minister Amit Shah has also reached Ahmedabad. That's what we understand at this stage. Prime Minister Modi has been taking stock of the situation and getting the latest from the Aviation Minister. Hospitals have begun DNA samplings of the victims, even as efforts to rescue those who can be rescued continue.
केबल निकाल देना मुझे
Earlier in the day, in an online post, the Aviation Minister had said, and I quote, "I'm shocked and devastated to learn about the flight crash in Ahmedabad. We are on the highest alert. I am personally monitoring the situation and have directed all aviation and emergency response agencies to take swift and coordinated action." That was his online post earlier in the day. And now he's arrived on the scene. Now, in a separate statement, Minister Naidu's office also said that the Prime Minister has directed the Minister to ensure all necessary support is extended immediately and asked to be kept regularly updated on the situation. All relevant agencies are on high alert and coordinated efforts are underway. That's a statement from the Aviation Minister's office. And now we have our correspondent Sachin joining us on the phone line. Sachin, बताइए आपको लेटेस्ट जानकारी क्या मिल रही है उधर से?
देखिए, अभी हाल फिलहाल जो जानकारी हमें मिल रही है कृष्णा, उसमें काफी सारे लोग जो इस दुर्घटना में हताहत हुए। अभी जो पूरी घटना हुई है, उस घटना में प्लेन जब टेक ऑफ हुआ उसके बाद वो एटीसी के टच में था और एटीसी के टच में था वो करीबन 9 मिनट 10 मिनट तक वो एटीसी के टच में रहा और फिर बाद में पायलट ने वहां पर 3 बार मेडे जो एक अलार्मिंग सिचुएशन बताने का प्रयास होता है तो की गई और वो करीबन 3 बार कहा जाता है, लेकिन 9 या 10वें मिनट पे जब मेडे करके जो अनाउंसमेंट है वो एटीसी को कर दिया गया पायलट की ओर से, तो उसके बाद स्थिति जो है वो पायलट के कंट्रोल से बाहर है। उसका मतलब ये होता है, इस तरह की बात जो है वो अभी हमारे पास इंफॉर्मेशन निकल के सामने आ रही है। इस पूरी दुर्घटना में जो यात्री थे वो यात्रियों में 169 जो यात्री हैं वो भारतीय नेशनल थे, साथ ही साथ में 53 थे जो वो ब्रिटिश नेशनल थे, एक कैनेडियन और 7 पोर्टुगीज के नेशनल थे। और उसके साथ जो क्रू मेंबर्स का स्टाफ होता है के साथ 240 जितने पैसेंजर, तो ये कुल इतना जो आता है उसके साथ साथ में जो ये दुर्घटना हुई और प्लेन क्रैश हुआ, तो वो एक जो हॉस्टल बिल्डिंग है सिविल हॉस्पिटल का, उसका जो कैंटीन वाला पोर्शन है वहां से पहले वो टकराया, उसका पीछे वाला हिस्सा वहीं रह गया। तो उसके बाद जो अगला हिस्सा है कॉकपिट, वो कॉकपिट का हिस्सा वहां से टकराकर बढ़ते बढ़ते आगे आया करीबन 200-300 मीटर से भी ज्यादा, जहां पर हॉस्टल के दूसरे जो डॉक्टर्स हैं या स्टाफ है वो जो जिस हॉस्टल में रहते हैं वहां पर उस बिल्डिंग से करीबन 3 से 4 ब्लॉक हैं उसके पास ये टकराया और टकराने के साथ ही वो ब्लास्ट हो चुका था। और उस दौरान जो लोग हैं जो प्रत्यक्षदर्शी है उनका ये भी कहना है कि ये जो पूरी दुर्घटना हुई उसके बाद वहां जाना मुश्किल था, लेकिन जिस तरह के प्रयास यहाँ पर किए जाने थे वो किए गए हैं। जो लोकल पुलिस स्टेशन है वहाँ की टीम सबसे पहले यहाँ पर पहुंची, फायर ब्रिगेड की टीम को भी यहाँ से अलर्ट कर दिया गया था, तब टीम यहाँ पर पहुंची और उसके बाद में जो आग बुझाने की जो प्रक्रिया है वो प्रक्रिया शुरू की गई। और साथ ही साथ में जो बिल्डिंग में हॉस्टल में जो बच्चे थे या जो डॉक्टर्स थे या जो स्टाफ था उनको बचाने का भी प्रयास जो है वो किया गया। कुछ लोग जो है कूद कर निकले हैं, कुछ लोगों को बचने तक का मौका नहीं मिला है। इस कदर ये जो ब्लास्ट और यहाँ की दुर्घटना जो यहाँ पर हुई है वो सामने आई है। कृष्णा।
Sachin there getting us the latest from the ground in Ahmedabad. We have Captain Ishan Khalid and my colleague Samia Kapoor also with us on the broadcast. Samia, we just got the latest visuals from the crash site. Union Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu is over there overseeing the rescue and relief operations. He's in front of the debris of the crash. Those are the latest visuals that we are getting from Ahmedabad. And in the meanwhile, we also understand that Union Home Minister Amit Shah has also reached Ahmedabad.
Absolutely. The Prime Minister himself had spoken to the Civil Aviation Minister when this entire the devastating news had come to fore, and he had urged upon the Civil Aviation Minister to rush to Ahmedabad immediately. Remember, he was at Vijay at that point in time, and he made way for the crash site at Ahmedabad. And those are the first pictures on the screens right now where Ram Mohan Naidu, the Civil Aviation Minister, is present taking stock on ground zero. And clearly, as far as the government is concerned, both the state and at the central level, they are leaving no stone unturned to ensure that the leaders, Home Minister Amit Shah himself also, who is present at Ahmedabad, all of them are going to be present in this hour of crisis, standing with the family members of those who lost their lives in this horrific air crash where over 240 people are feared dead. And not only that, the visuals on the screens right now are from the debris that we can see around the hostel, the BJ Medical Hostel, where several students were present over there, and the airplane crashed into that particular medical college hostel. Several of the students were present over there. Many managed to rush, many got trapped into it. That's where the rescue operation had started. Remember, the fire tenders were sent to the spot immediately, 3 of them. The local police, they were the first respondents to the entire episode. Then, of course, the NDRF and the SDRF were also deployed at the site. We have to wait and see what is going to be the course of action here on. The Aviation Minister is there speaking to the local agencies and the authorities who are working on ground. He's taking stock at the ground zero itself. No stones unturned. World mourns the death of over 240 people. There could be more numbers of casualties that the government is yet to put out. They are still ascertaining the extent of death and damage as far as the Ahmedabad-London Gatwick bound flight is concerned.
Samia Kapoor there joining us with the latest details, even as we continue to get you all the latest visuals from the crash site as well. Union Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu has arrived at the crash site and is taking stock of the situation. Those are the visuals on your screens. We have Captain Ishan Khalid, the aviation expert, continuing to be with us on the broadcast, even as we continue to get you visuals of grieving relatives of those who lost their loved ones in this crash. Captain Ishan Khalid, we will know all that we need to know about the crash, hopefully, when the black box is analyzed and decoded. But my question here at this stage is that after the Mayday call was made by the pilot, by the time the air traffic control tried to reach out to the pilot, there was no response. So those calls were just about the pilot calling for a mayday and not getting a response. And by the time the air traffic control responded, there was no, they couldn't hear back from the pilot.
Okay, so in this case, like as I said, the mayday call is given to alert the ground staff, the aircraft in the air, ATC, and search and rescue team that there is a danger to the aircraft and occupant. Getting a response from them is not the idea of mayday call. A mayday call says that, thereafter you have the priority to go anywhere that you want to go, and ATC and all other services will assist you in going to whatever you want. Let's say the aircraft was at 10,000 feet and gives a mayday call, then the ATC would say that, all runway, all traffic is clear for you. That way they give the assistance. Here, there was no assistance asked because there was no assistance that could have ever been given by ground controller. Okay, here the problem was that the aircraft was continuing to descend despite whatever power was there, whatever configuration that the aircraft was on. And the only thing that could have saved was probably a higher speed, which they did not have for that configuration that they were flying on. And whether their speed was less because of the configuration of the aircraft or because of the lack of power from both the engines, we will come to know only with BFDR. So the investigating authorities will have to focus. The first thing that they will focus is obviously why the landing gear was down. Okay. And if it was down, that means much before that impact occurred, the pilot probably knew that they are going to hit the ground.
I was asking that question, Captain Ishan Khalid, I was asking the question because, if there was no communication, it all happened way too quickly from takeoff to crash, what could we possibly unearth from that black box?
So the black box will give you every 3 seconds or 5 seconds analysis of your engine producing thrust, their vibration, their fuel flow, their ITT, the temperature, the EGT temperature. There are 256 parameters, and 787 could have even more parameters that is recorded. It also says that, fine, this particular warning was alerted before or after. So everything that was in that the aircraft actually flew would be recorded. So you would get what was the wind, what was the speed, what was the attitude, what was the heading, and what were the track that the aircraft was following. Because in the air, you could be heading on north and winds pushing you, then you could be going left and right. So everything is recorded. So once you have the DVR, you will know exactly what went wrong. There is no speculation at that stage.
Right. And as we wait for that, what are the, this is possibly building up, Captain Ishan Khalid, as possibly the biggest aviation disaster in India's history. There is the previous one, the biggest so far in terms of casualties, at least is 349. But in this one, 242 people on board, no survivors so far. Those are the reports that we're getting at this stage, no official reports. But then we understand that from reports that there are no survivors, and plus there could be more casualties from on ground from where it crashed. Every crash, Captain Ishan Khalid, is an important lesson that we learn to ensure that not a single more life is lost. But in this particular case, there seems to be a huge shot of mystery as to how this even happened and what we can possibly learn. And is it even possibly avoidable in the future?
Every thinking pilot today would not have a comfortable seat, because the pilot would definitely question what went wrong, because it's not easy to decipher what went wrong. At this stage, if the landing gear was up and the flaps were deflected, I would have said that, there was an engine failure and the pilot tried to control it. The air visual.
दिखा तो है नहीं, धुआं एकदम धुआं हो गया था तो दिखा भी नहीं होगा। 15 मिनट के बाद मैं खुद आ गया, आवाज के बाद ही सबको पता चला होगा। 15 मिनट हुआ तब तक अच्छा होने में प्राइमरली तो कई लोगों को लगा कि सिविल में फायर इंसिडेंट हुआ है शायद। हाँ, कुछ लोगों को लगा कि आग लगी है शायद। अच्छा, बिल्डिंग 12 लोगों को ऐसा लगा आग लगी है। ये फायर कॉल समझा था सबने। कहने का मतलब 1 किलोमीटर माने बार किसी को कुछ दिखता ही नहीं था। 15 मिनट में मैं खुद आ गया था। धुआं पूरा वातावरण, पूरा धुआं था। 15 मिनट में यहाँ पे चाय वाले या कोई है, वो भी लेडी, उसका बेटा, उसकी बहू, उसका हाथ जल गया और वो लड़का तो उसका डेथ हो गया। तो वो उसका फैमिली वाला, उसका बीमार है, वहाँ पे हार्ट नहीं पड़ेगा। वो लोग थे जो वो बता रहे थे कि अचानक से हुआ, कुछ समझ में नहीं आया। दूसरे जो लोग थे उन्होंने देखा, लेकिन वो काफ़ी देर तक यहाँ से नज़दीक नहीं जा पा रहे थे क्योंकि हीट इतना था, तो हीट के कारण वो पहुँच नहीं पाए।
That's India's Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu speaking to those on the ground. He's at the crash site, the BJ Medical College Hostel, where we can hear people telling him that initially everybody thought that it was the building that had caught fire. Let's now listen to some of the reactions that are coming in.
Well, it's a very tragic and a very sad day, and we all are very concerned and worried that such an accident has taken place. Our condolences to the victims and their families, and I pray, if I hope any survivors are there for their speedy recovery.
हिंदी वो शब्दों का वो ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा, इसलिए वो चालक
यार ये नहीं, माइक नीचे रख।
ओके सर ये इंसिडेंट माइक राहुल नीचे आएंगे। I am totally shaken by the incident that has happened today near Ahmedabad airport. Very tragic and very, very horrific. And even till now, I have to say I'm in a state of shock. When the event happened, I was in Vijayawada doing the review of that airport and attending one state program. But the moment I got to know this incident happened, I wanted to be here physically at the site, try to find out more about what happened and what needs to be done. And also Honorable PM has called me and also told me to be there at the site and also look into the operations which is going on right now. And right now, if you ask me, I can only think about the passengers, their families, what they might be going through, and especially the civilians also who are there near the crash site. A lot of relief effort has been done already, right from Indian Army, NDRF, state police, medical departments, including aviation concerned departments. Everyone has attended immediately. The fire department, to the best of their abilities, they have been functioning here and doing the rescue operations. And we still have to find out the numbers. I don't want to put any wrong numbers to you, so we still have to go through the numbers. And my condolences, my prayers, my thoughts with the families of the bereaved. And we are trying to extend all the help that can be done. And even our Honorable Home Minister is also coming to inspect the site right now. He will be coming here. We'll go through another round of inspection. We'll talk to some of the people who are here and all the teams that are here. And then we are having one meeting at the Circuit House. Circuit House? Annex. So we will be discussing some more things there. Maybe once we go through all these discussions, I can give you some more information. But if you ask me, then I'm just thinking about the families and the passengers who are there. It's a great loss. Yes, yes, it is. It is very. Yes. Very sad to know that Vijay Rupani ji, Chief Minister, was also there, and like you were mentioning, other nationals were also there. Children were also there. I would only say that each and every life is precious to us. Each and every one is a very important person to us. So it's an incident which has shaken the nation also. Everyone has expressed their grief.
सीरियसली इस घटना को लिया जा रहा है क्योंकि इतनी टेक्नोलॉजी होने के बावजूद इस तरह की घटना होना तो वो एक अपने आप में बड़े सवाल करता है.
Yes. I'll only give one line to what you have asked right now. We are going to do a fair and thorough investigation. We are not going to spare anyone. We are not going to leave any stone unturned. We will do properly according to the protocol, and we are going to go to the depth of why this incident has happened. That much I can tell you now. बस अभी इतना का.
Thank you. मेरा कैप पड़े यार. ओके.
एक सेकंड मेरा केबल भाई. केबल पासी कैप.
So you are going to stay here, sir?
I'll see according to the work that is going on. मेरा डिपार्टमेंट.
हाँ जी, इसीलिए बहुत अनफॉर्चुनेट है सर, किसी ने सोचा भी नहीं था. इसलिए हमने बताया ना पहले यही था कि फायर इंसिडेंट हुआ.
So Ayushi, first your question. What has happened in Ahmedabad is a very tragic accident. We have lost a lot of people. We extend our deepest condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones. There are, I understand, several foreigners also. Those updates you will receive from the relevant departments, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Air India and others. They are putting out something, I guess, soon. That's the latest that I can share. We also, it's still an evolving situation. Rescue operations are on, so you'll have to wait a little more time for exact details to be put out. But you would have seen, that everybody is concerned, and we once again convey our deepest condolences to all the families who have lost their loved ones.
Welcome to News 9. You are watching On Point. I'm Kartikesh Sharma, and the story is the tragedy that struck India today. Yes, the biggest plane, an airliner, crashed in Ahmedabad. A London-bound Air India plane carrying 242 people crashed shortly after takeoff in Ahmedabad on Thursday afternoon. Air India confirmed the plane that crashed is flight A1171, which was travelling from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport in Ahmedabad to London Gatwick. A total of 242 passengers and crew were aboard the flight. Reports suggest that there are no survivors. Eyewitnesses near the crash site reported a loud explosion followed by a thick plume of black smoke. The plane crashed into the residential quarters of the BJ Medical College doctors in Ahmedabad's Meghani Nagar area. The accident happened just weeks after Boeing cut a deal with the US government to avoid taking criminal responsibility for a pair of deadly crashes in 2018 and 19. This point I'm going to come a little later, but let me play out a couple of reactions.
मेरा बनेवी मेरा सिस्टर दोनों है अंदर और हमको जाने नहीं दे रहे, सारे रास्ते ब्लॉक कर दिए हमारे इधर से। मेरी भांजी है, हम लंदन वो वहाँ जा रहे थे, भांजी ने फोन किया मम्मी पापा फ्लाइट में है, तो हम इधर नरोड़ा से सीधा दौड़ के इधर आए हैं।